morning, everyone. If our members would find their seats, our guests find seats in the gallery. Welcome, everyone, to the Will County Board for May 19, 2016. Call this meeting to order. If everyone would please stand and remain standing. County Board Member Pastor Herb Brooks will lead in the pledge and then introduce the clergy this morning.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My esteemed colleague, Joe Babbage, many of you may or may not know, had a little accident at home. He's at home doing well. However, his accident is my privilege to introduce to you all his pastor for this morning. The Reverend Father Timothy Andres of St. Joseph Catholic Church right down the street from us was installed as the 12th pastor of St. Joe's Church on July 16, 2012. St. Joseph Catholic Church celebrated its first Mass of Slovenian Catholic immigrants on May 12 of 1891. On May 15, 2016, St. Joseph celebrates its 125th anniversary. Father Tim.
Thank you. I appreciate. Please keep Joe, who's one of your own and one of our favorite sons at St. Joe's in Slovenia. I'm an Irish priest, but I serve at St. Joe's with great pleasure. So it's good to be with you this morning and to lead you in prayer. So let us bow our heads and pray. God of justice and mercy, thank you for the very gift of life and the gift of faith. We ask you to bless and inspire those who serve the public good. Help all of us to always act with character and conviction. Help us to listen with understanding and goodwill. Help us to speak with charity and restraint. Give all citizens of this county a spirit of service. Remind us that we are all stewards of your authority, and guide all to be leaders that your people deserve and need. Help us to see the humanity and dignity of those we may disagree with, and treat all persons, no matter how poor or weak, with the reverence your creation deserves. And finally, Heavenly Father, renew us with the strength of your presence and the very joy of helping to build a community worthy of the human person. And we ask this as your sons and daughters, confident in your goodness and love. Amen.
Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Sure. Mayor? Here. Brooks?
Here.
Howard? Here. Ogala? Here. Singer? Moran? Here. Rice? Here. Harris? Here. Trenier? Here. Benefield? Here. Fritz? Here. Freitag? Here. Gould? Here. Balich? Here. Frizzalone? Here. Winfrey? Here. Parker? Here. Staley Ferry? Here. Babbage? Wilhelmy? Hart? Tuminello, Weigel, Collins, Ferry, and Eustis. Thank you.
23 present, 3 absent.
23 present. We do have a quorum. Motion to place on file certificate of publication. Moved by Ms. Trenier, second by Ms. Staley Ferry. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Sure. Mayor? Brooks? Yes. Howard? Ogala? Yes. Moran. Rice. Harris. Trinier. Benefield. Fritz. Freitag. Gould. Balich. Frizzalone. Winfrey. Parker. Staley Ferry. Hart. Tumanello. Weigel. Collins. Ferry. And Mustis. Thank you.
23 affirmative.
23 affirmative, motion is carried. Entertain a motion to approve the Will County Board recess meeting of April 21st, 2016. Approval of the minutes. Moved by Mr. Ferry, second by Ms. Rice. Any questions? Previous roll by Ms. Parker, second by Mr. Gould. All in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary, motion has carried. Madam Clerk, would you acknowledge our elected officials and the media that is present this morning?
Sure. Auditor Duffy Blackburn, Circuit Clerk Pam McGuire, County Clerk Nancy Schultz-Foots, our County Executive Larry Walsh, Recorder of Deeds Karen Stuckel, and we have our Chief Judge here today, Richard Shainstead. With the press, Farmers Weekly Review, Nick Ryer, Southtown, Susan Lafferty, Herald News, Lauren Leon Cross, WJOL, Monica DeSantis, and also we have Herald News, Mike Mallory. Welcome. Good morning.
Thank you. Next up, honorary resolutions and proclamations. If Reagan Freitag would please come forward, County Board Member Reagan Freitag at the podium, and if Kurt Sangmeister and Chief Judge Shainstead will please come down, recognizing Kurt Sangmeister on his retirement.
Told you I was going to embarrass you. Thank you, Mr. Executive. At this time, I'd like to present a certificate of appreciation for Kurt Sangmeister and his 21 years of dedication to Will County and the citizens here. Kurt is a lifelong resident of Will County. He's married to Gina and has his daughter, Jordan. His work experience in the county, he started in 1996, working with the 12th Judicial Circuit Court as the court administrator. He was also an arbitration administrator from 1995 to 1996, again with the 12th Judicial Circuit. From 1989 to 1995, he was the court operation analyst. Then he was the field auditor from 1987 to 1989 for the Administration Office of the Illinois Courts. From 1984 to 1987, he was the consumer advocate for the Attorney General. And then we had the pleasure of having him as our court administrator for our courthouse for the 12th Judicial Circuit. And it's been a pleasure working with him in the 8, almost 9 years that I've been practicing. Don's an attorney on the board, and we're all very appreciative of all the work you've done. He's always there. He's walking the halls. He's at the county board meetings. He's done so much. I don't know what the attorneys, what our constituents, what the families of the courthouse have done. He has been instrumental in helping us with the new courthouse project, and we'll be very, very sad to see you leave, but I'll be looking forward to visiting you in Florida.
You're always welcome.
So we'd like to present you with a certificate of appreciation for your 21 years of dedicated service to the citizens of Will County as administrator of the 12th Judicial Circuit, signed by Lawrence M. Walsh and Nancy Schultz-Boots.
It's been my privilege to work with some great people at the Will County Courthouse. You know, during my time there, I served with 5 chief judges. I want to thank Judge Shainstead for coming out today. And while I'll miss the work, certainly, it has been a lot of fun, a lot of work, but a lot of challenges also. The thing I'm going to miss more is the people, because we've got some great people that work for this county and in the courthouse, and I will miss seeing them on a daily basis. So thank you very much.
just briefly, I've been a judge for 15 years. Kurt has been trial court administrator for that, plus many more, as you just heard. It's a credit to Kurt that until I became chief judge, I had no idea what he did. Things ran that smoothly. You all know him as dealing with collective bargaining or budgeting, new courthouse issues, but his main job is just to run the operations of the court, and nobody did it or could do it like he did. We're going to miss him greatly. Kurt, I've never seen anybody that could deal with so many people, so many different kinds of people, groups of people, the way that he could, whether it be political, personal, professional. Of course, he always had an unfair advantage. He grew up in a household where integrity was paramount above anything else. So he learned at a young age, and he took that with him into his career, and we're glad and proud to have him. So thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, with County Board Member Don Gould come forward, recognizing the Minooka 8th grade cheerleading and volleyball championships. Don? Good morning. Good morning, Don. How are you, Larry?
We have with us this morning Coach Jenna Panio and the Minooka Athletic Director, Adrian McCarroll. Very honored to read this resolution. I had one son who graduated from Minooka Junior High and another one who's currently a student there. And to have 2 state championships in 1 year for a junior high school is almost unheard of. It provides, whereas it is the intent of the Will County Board and the Will County Executive to recognize outstanding achievements of individuals and organizations within Will County, and whereas Minooka Junior High School cheerleading team placed first in the large division at the Illinois Elementary School Association Cheerleading State Championship at the Peoria Civic Center on January 23, 2016, and whereas this is the first championship for Minooka Junior High School in cheerleading, and whereas the Minooka cheerleading team consists of 24 girls from 6th through 8th grades, and whereas the Minooka Junior High School girls volleyball team were IVC conference, regional, and sectional class champions, which qualified them to compete in the state championship, and whereas the Minooka Junior High School girls volleyball team finished their season with a Class 4A state title and ended their season 22-2 by beating Frankfort Summit Hill in 2 games. Sorry, Frankfort. And whereas Minooka girls volleyball team consists of 11 girls from 8th grade, and whereas those successes can be attributed to the commitment and dedication of cheerleading head coach Jenna Panio and volleyball head coach Coral Berta, the outstanding coaching staff and the Minooka Junior High School cheerleading and volleyball teams. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Will County Board and the Will County Executive hereby honor Minooka Junior High School cheerleading and girls volleyball teams for first place in their respective events. Be it further resolved that Coach Panio and Coach Berta, the coaching staff, and the members of the Minooka cheerleading and girls volleyball teams be commended for this distinguished honor. Signed, Lawrence M. Walsh and Nancy Schultz-Voots, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. Gould, second by Ms. Freitag. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion has carried. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jenna Panio, and I have been teaching and coaching in Minooka this is my 10th year. This is my first state championship as a coach as well. I've kind of had some second and third place level finishes at state, but this is my first. I feel honored to work for Minooka. It is one of the greatest parts of my life, and just the students, the girls that I coach, and our fearless leader, Dr. Mann, is in the corner here today, and that just kind of shows the dedication and support we have in our district that is ever growing, and the support I get from my athletic director, Adrian McCarroll, on a daily basis is just more than I could ever hope for in a supervisor and our leaders. So thank you so much for recognizing us today. And that's it.
I'd like to thank all of you guys for honoring the teams today. It was very thoughtful. Thank you for including us. It means a lot. These girls worked hard this year, and it showed on the courts and in their performances. So thank you for taking time out of your day to recognize these young ladies, and we'll be able to take this, and I'm going to share it with the families, and look forward to years to come with maybe some more plaques and trophies. Thank you guys very much.
There you go. Thank you for coming by. Thank you. Thanks, Don. Next, if County Board Member Herb Brooks would please come forward, recognizing St. Joseph Parish on their 125th anniversary.
Father Tim, come on back down and join me. We're getting to be old friends now. At Joe Babbitt's expense. We hope he's well, but gives me great pleasure one more time to recognize the 125th anniversary of the St. Joseph Parish here in this downtown Joliet. Whereas on May 12, 1891, Reverend Francis Sustersich, as Father Tim said, celebrated the first Mass for the Sylvanian Catholic immigrants of the newly formed St. Joseph Parish of Joliet. And whereas by 1905, those hard-working, dedicated people had constructed what is still one of the most beautiful structures in the Joliet area. And whereas today, St. Joseph Parish of Joliet is a spiritual home of over 800 families, many of them of Sylvanian ancestry. And whereas since June 28, 2015, St. Joseph Parish of Joliet has been celebrating its 125th anniversary with many religious and social activities. And on May 15, 2016, there was a closing celebration of the anniversary with a Mass and a banquet. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Will County Board and the Will County Executive hereby congratulate St. Joseph Parish of Joliet on its 125th anniversary. Be it further proclaimed that the Will County Board and the Will County Executive applaud Father Tim and the parishioners of the St. Joseph Parish for their dedicated and wish them for their dedication and wish them many more years of success of serving this community. Dated this 19th day of May, 2016, Larry M. Walsh, Will County Executive, Nancy Voos, Will County Clerk, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. Brooks, seconded by Ms. Winfrey. All in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary, motion is carried. Congratulations, Father.
It's hard to follow that enthusiasm there, Pastor Brooks, but I taught for 30 years. I think I'll be able to do it. I do want to thank Mr. Walsh, certainly all the county officers, the board members. St. Joe's is a great part of not only Joliet, but Will County. 125 years is incredible. The building, the church building itself, is one of the architectural gems of this city. You see the spires rising up in the sky every time you drive down here to the county board. It will continue to be there. We hope to be a beacon of truth and hope always in the city of Joliet to continue to serve people who come to us. Our doors are always welcome. So on behalf of everyone at St. Joe's, we've had a wonderful year-long celebration. I thank all of you for this honor and this recognition. And if I didn't get the phone call, I would have worn purple this morning. But I celebrate with you here today. Thank you very much. God bless everyone.
Thank you, Father.
Thanks.
Have a good one.
Thanks.
God bless.
Kids.
Now, County Board member Judy Ogalla will recognize May as Children's Mental Health Awareness Month, reading the proclamation from her desk. Ms. Ogalla.
Thank you, Larry. I'm honored to be able to read this today. As the Chair of Public Health and Safety, it's very important for me that issues like this are recognized. I have, my son was adopted at 3 years old, and he had a lot of emotional needs, and I saw what services he received here in Will County did for him, that he is a thriving college student right now. And my girlfriend has a grandson who was at 2 diagnosed with autism, and he wouldn't look at you or talk. And by the time he was 4, he was running up to people, hugging them, and actually reading. So early diagnosis and intervention is so important. So Children's Mental Health Awareness Month, whereas addressing the complex mental health needs of children and families today is fundamental to the future progress of Will County. And whereas 1 in 5 children has a diagnosable mental health disorder, but factors can be identified in the early years. And whereas the need for education and prevention services for children and families places upon our community a critical responsibility. And whereas it is appropriate that a month should be set aside apart each year for the direction of our thoughts towards our children's mental health and well-being. And whereas the Will County All Our Kids Early Education, Early Childhood Network has for the past 9 years worked to educate the public on early childhood mental health and development to service providers through training opportunities in an effort to help to build healthy families from infants to adults. Now therefore be it resolved that the Will County Board and the Will County Executive hereby proclaim May 2016 as Children's Mental Health Awareness Month to raise awareness and understanding of children's mental health. Be it further resolved that the Will County Board and Will County Executive urge citizens, agencies, and organizations to take advantage of the information available to learn all they can about early childhood mental health and development programs. Dated this 19th day of May, 2016. Lawrence M. Walsh, Will County Executive, attested by Nancy Schultz-Voots, Will County Clerk, and I so move.
Moved by Ms. Ogalla, second by Mr. Tumanello. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion has carried. Thank you, Judy.
Thank you.
All resolutions from the April 21st, 2016 County Board agenda have been signed by the County Executive. Moving on to new business. First Committee, Land Use and Development Committee, Mr. Weigel, Chairman.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning, Tom.
First item is the public hearing for land use cases. I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
Moved by Mr. Weigel, second by Mr. Frizzalone. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Sure. Mayor? Yes. Brooks? Yes. Howard? Yes. Ogalla? Yes. Moran? Yes. Rice? Yes. Harris? Yes. Trenier? Yes. Benefield? Yes. Fritz? Yes. Freitag? Yes. Gould? Yes. Balich? Yes. Frizzalone?
Yes.
Winfrey? Yes. Parker? Yes. Staley Ferry? Yes. Hart? Tumanello? Yes. Weigel?
Yes.
Collins? Yes. Ferry?
Yes.
And Mustis. Yes. Thank you.
23 affirmative.
23 affirmative. We are in public hearing. Please be advised, absolutely no new evidence or information will be allowed once this land use public hearing is closed. We have 2 zoning cases to be heard this morning. Case 6287-MV2 and case 6299-S. Anyone here to speak? I think I have Mr. Alan Miller on case 6299. Would you like to speak?
Only if there's questions. I'm the applicant.
Oh, okay. Any other person from the general public wish to speak on either of these 2 zoning cases? Anyone from the public wishing to speak? Last call for anybody that wishes to speak on either of these 2 cases. Mr. Weigel.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Mr. Weigel, second by Mr. Ballage. Nancy, please call the roll.
Sure. Mayor? Yes. Brooks? Yes. Howard? Yes. Ogalla?
Yes.
Moran? Yes. Rice? Yes. Harris? Yes. Trainier?
Yes.
Benefield?
Yes.
Fritz?
Yes.
Freitag?
Yes.
Gould?
Yes.
Balich?
Yes.
Frissalone?
Yes.
Winfrey?
Yes.
Parker?
Yes.
Staley Ferry?
Yes.
Hart? Hart?
Hart, Ms. Hart.
Thank you. Tumanello? Yes. Weigel?
Yes.
Collins? Ferry? Yes. And Mustis. Thank you.
23 affirmative.
23 affirmative. Public hearing has been closed. Please continue, Mr. Weigel.
The first case, 6287, MV2, a map amendment from E2 to A1. The petitioner has requested that we table this so they can work out details with the objector. I'll make a motion to table this.
Moved by Mr. Weigel, second by Mr. Frenzelone. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary, motion has carried.
Second case, 6299-S, is a special use permit for sports and recreation. It's an amendment to an existing permit to allow expansion of their facility in Plainfield. Committee recommends approval, and I so move.
Moved with Mr. Weigel, second by Mr. Ferry. Any questions? Any questions? Previous roll by Ms. Trainier, second by Ms. Rice. So, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary, motion has carried.
That concludes my report. Our next meeting will be June 14th. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Next, moving on. Finance Committee, Mr. Frissalone, Chairman.
Good morning, Will County.
Good morning, Michael.
First thing we have up is a couple of reports to be placed on file. A report from the Illinois Department of Revenue showing sales tax remitted to Will County for the month of February to be $1,306,961.13, and the RTA tax received is $1,633,972.37, for a total of $2,940,933.50. And we also have the Will County Monthly County Treasurer Report dated March 21. So I would move to put both of those on file.
Moved by Mr. Frissalone, second by Mr. Mayor. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion has carried.
Next, we have Resolution 16-130, authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $275 million general obligation bonds of Will County, Illinois, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. Frissalone, second by Mr. Ballage.
Mr. Executive, I'd like to amend that motion now.
Okay.
So if everybody would look on their desks, on page 4 of the resolution, you'll see a line crossed out and a number added. What we did on this is there was a limit put in here, but it was a complex formula that could have allowed the rate to go as high as 9%. Instead, we've crossed that out and just put a limit rate of 6% in the document. So I want to amend this document to read the rate per annum not to exceed 6%, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. Ballage, or excuse me, Mr. Frissalone, second by Mr. Tumanello. Everybody understand the amendment? Previous roll call by Ms. Trainier, second by Mr. Howard. Question? Okay.
Okay, with the 6%, I know recently the Forest Preserve District refinanced at a much lower percent. Is this too generous, you think, as far as the percentage? I mean, 6% is quite high.
Bob, we'll never get to this rate, but it's a max rate. The way that the formula read, it would allow us to go to 9%. Okay. Right now, you're right, the rates are very low. We may look at bonding out early just to take advantage of those rates, but this just sets a max rate limit. We'll never get to this rate.
Because this is almost 4% higher than what the Forest Preserve District actually did, so. Just a question, so.
Finished? Done? Mr. Mustis?
Yeah. That number is just a not-to-exceed number. Prior to, what was in the original resolution said the legal limit. The legal limit was 9%. I suspect that when we issue bonds, we'll be around 2%. This has nothing to do with, this is just an absolute ceiling. The board would never, and leadership would never, I think, allow rates that high. But since the law requires some number to go in there, you have to put something in there. You know, why 6% was, I guess, is just the number. But it's not the number we're going to actually issue bonds at. We'll be issuing bonds in the 2% range, chances are, especially if we take a look at it and issue sooner than later. I just want to make that clear. It's just something that's required by law to put something in there. And this is better than, this is more transparent, and it's better than what was currently in there.
Thank you, Mr. Mustis. Mr. Gould?
Could you show me as abstaining, please?
Ms. Trainier?
I want to ask a question. Mr. Victor Chang. Because, I mean, I get we have to have a cap in here, but triple seems a little high. I don't know if that's normal. And then to Mr. Mustis's comment, we would never, I don't know exactly when these bonds are going to be issued. I don't think Mr. Mustis has a crystal ball. If they're not going to be issued before November, then we can say we, but otherwise we don't know who the new board would be. And some future board might actually go all the way to that limit. So I'm just wondering if triple the amount is the, excuse me, I'm still speaking. I wanted to ask Victor if triple the amount is pretty normal.
Is Victor here?
Yeah, he's here.
Yeah.
Where'd he go?
Or Ray? Or here?
I thought he was here.
Was here. What about Ray? It's Ray.
Mr.
Ray, can
Fricky,
you answer that for
Mr.
us?
Fricky, Mr. Fricky, would you please come down?
We put in a not-to-exceed number, and this number is actually the coupon rate on the bond for any year. Will County Forest Preserve District yesterday issued bonds. Some of the bonds had 5% coupon. The actual tick, or the interest rate, when you looked at the whole formula, though, was much, much lower. Also, this preserves the right for 3 years. We have an open window on this authorization for 3 years, so that if you did bonds over a period of time, that it preserves the right that we don't have to come back and get reauthorization if we have to go through that coupon rate. But in reality, this is going to be dictated by the market. They're going to get the best market rate that they can.
Thank you.
Mr. Mustis, question?
You know, Ray, what I don't understand is we do a parameter ordinance, and we're basically saying, well, am I on? Yeah. Come on.
You're on.
Okay. I'll just talk loud since mine doesn't seem to be working, I guess. You mentioned the coupon rate, and I don't know if everybody understands how bond issues are done. It's not like a mortgage. You're getting 3.5% across the board year in, year out. The rates can vary.
Right, the rates can vary. We can issue, let's say that we do a 20-year bond issue, and each year that you would have something called serial bonds, and in each year there would be a different interest rate on the bonds. Obviously, the people who are buying something that's longer term, like the 20-year bond, want more return than the person who is buying a 1-year bond. So you'll typically see interest rates increase over a period of time, but the net result is that you're borrowing at a much, much lower rate. That's just the coupon.
So, you know, the 6% is about that coupon rate. So, you know, we could have bonds, we could have first year's bonds that would pay 0.75%, and then at the end it could be
Correct.
5.5%.
Correct.
And by the way, and that's one of the, sometimes the reasons refinancing becomes so attractive, because the high interest rates are on the back end, not on the front end.
Right.
So let me ask you, when we do these parameter ordinances, I think the board in general feels they're talking about an overall interest rate. They're not looking at a coupon rate.
Right, this is a coupon rate.
Correct. So you can look at like the Forest Reserve. I believe their overall rate's about 1 3/4, even though they'll have coupons in there that are going to be over 4%, 5%. So they're going to have coupons in there that are going to be at 5%, but the overall rate is 1.8%.
Right.
So I think this board needs to understand the structure of bonding, and this has nothing to do with this is not about the overall rate. It's about allowing a coupon rate so you can structure the repayment up to 6%, but the overall rate would be like 2%. I mean,
Yeah,
is
in
that what
today's-
we're doing here?
yeah, in today's
So
world,
we're
yes.
focusing on a coupon rate, not the overall rate.
Correct.
Do you all understand that? So, when people say, well, that seems excessive, you have to understand how the bonds are structured. So educate yourselves on how public debt is structured, and maybe you'll feel more comfortable or have a better understanding of it.
Any more questions? Any for Ray? Thank you, Ray. So we got a motion and a second on the floor. Any other discussion? Any other discussion? Previous roll by Ms. Rice, second by Mr. Brooks. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary, motion is carried. That was on the amendment. So now the motion motion as amended.
So I'd like to make the motion to approve, to authorize the issuance not to exceed $275 million general obligation bonds as amended.
Second by Mr. Balich. Any questions? Any questions? Previous roll by Mr. Wilhelmie, second by Mr. Howard. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion as carried. Did we get, okay, thank you. Mr. Frizzalone.
All right. Next up, and I will explain this, we're authorizing a grant fund for the Sheriff's Department. This is a grant coming from Centerpoint that is a one-year grant. They have told us that if the grant doesn't come through for the second year, that program will end. So this is 16-131, appropriating grant funds in the 2016 fiscal year sheriff's budget, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. Frizzalone, second by Mr. Benefield. Any questions? Previous roll by Ms. Staley Ferryman, second by Mr. Harris. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion has carried.
Next resolution is 16-132, and it's authorizing the county executive to execute necessary documents for the delinquent tax program, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. Frizzalone, second by Mr. Moran. Any questions? Previous roll by Ms. Freitag, second by Ms. Parker. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary, motion has carried.
Okay, that's all I have for today, and our next Finance Committee meeting is scheduled for June 7th at 10 a.m.
Thank you very much, Michael.
You're welcome.
Next up, Public Works and Transportation Committee, Mr. Gould, Chairman.
Good morning, Mr. Executive.
Good morning, Don.
Good morning, fellow board members. I have two items to be placed on file this morning. I have a proposed issuance of a federally enforceable state operating permit for the DeLong Company in Shanahan, and a proposed issuance of a federally enforceable state operating permit for the DeLong Company of Joliet. So moved.
Moved by Mr. Gould, second by Mr. Tumanello. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion has carried.
First resolution is 16-133, confirming an award of contract to Austin Tyler Construction, led on April 20th, 2016, New Lenox Road District for various roads, County Board District 12. I move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Gould, second by Ms. Parker. Any questions? Previous roll by Ms. Collins, second by Ms. Hart. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion has carried.
Resolution 16134, confirming award of contract to deconstruction led on April 20th, 2016 for Cedar Road from Francis Road to Lennox Street. County Board District 12, I move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Gould, second by Ms. Fritz. Any questions? Previous roll by Ms. Rice, second by Mr. Wilhelmie. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion has carried.
Resolution 16135, confirming an award of contract to Austin Tyler Construction led on April 20th, 2016. The Gauger Road turn lanes at Barron's Drive and Ellis Road, County Board District 12, I move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Gould, second by Ms. Collins. Any questions? Previous roll by Ms. Trenier, second by Mr. Moran. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion has carried.
Resolution 16136 for improvements by the county under the Illinois Highway Code for Gauger Road turn lanes at Barron's Drive and Ellis Road, County Board District 12, using MFT funds. I move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Gould, second by Mr. Balich. Any questions? Previous roll by Mr. Tumanello, second by Ms. Ogala. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion has carried.
Resolution 16137, confirming an award of contract to deconstruction led on April 27th, 2016. Green Garden Road District at the Offner Road Bridge, County Board District 2. I move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Gould, second by Ms. Hart. Any questions? Previous roll by Mr. Ferry, second by Mr. Harris. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion has carried.
Resolution 16138, authorizing the Will County State's Attorney's Office to proceed with condemnation cases regarding the county's improvements on Bell Road at 143rd Street intersection improvement, County Board District 7. I move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Gould, second by Mr. Balich. Any questions? Previous roll by Mr. Frizzalone, second by Ms. Hart. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion has carried.
Resolution 16139, authorizing approval of additional professional services agreement for engineering with URS for the development of the county's 2040 transportation plan, County Board Districts 1 through 13. I move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Gould, second by Mr. Ferry. Any questions? Previous roll by Ms. Parker, second by Ms. Rice. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion has carried.
Resolution 16140, authorizing approval of additional professional engineering services agreement with URS Corporation for the county's 2040 transportation plan, County Board Districts 1 through 13, using MFT funds. I move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Gould, second by Mr. Tumanello. Any questions? Previous roll by Mr. Wilhelmie, second by Ms. Winfrey. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion has carried.
Resolution 16141, authorizing the Will County Executive to execute an agreement between the County of Will and Ottawa Farm and Fleet Incorporated for maintenance of the storm sewer system at the southeast corner of Weber Road and Airport Road in County Board District 3. I move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Gould, second by Ms. Ogala. Any questions? Previous roll by Mr. Wilhelmie, second by Ms. Parker. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion is carried.
Thank you. Our next committee meeting is June the 7th at 9 o'clock.
Thank you very much, Don. Next up is Judicial Committee. Mr. Benefield, Chairman.
Good morning, Mr. Executive, County Board members. We have nothing to place before the County Board this morning. Thank you. Our next Judicial Committee meeting is scheduled for June 7th at 9 a.m.
Thank you, Darren.
Thank you.
Next up, Public Health and Safety Committee. Ms. Ogala, Chairperson.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Judy.
I have one item for us today is to place on file is the Will County Regional Office of Education quarterly report, January 1st, 2016 through March 31st, 2016, submitted by Dr. Sean Walsh, Regional Superintendent, and I so move.
Moved by Ms. Ogala, second by Ms. Collins. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion has carried.
And that's all I have to report this morning. Our next Public Health and Safety Committee meeting is scheduled for June 2nd, 2016 at 9 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Next up, Legislative and Policy Committee, Ms. Hart, Chairperson.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you. Okay, real quick, the only positive thing I have with this report, our quick take, House Bill 1191 is on for the third reading at the Senate. We see no reason for it not to go all the way through, but, you know, there's nothing ever promising. So, but it is looking good. It was told that there was going to be no problem. I see. Everyone understands the magnitude of this fabulous project. The other I'm going to go on to, and I had a few things, but I'm going to kind of pull it back. But the last time when we were in executive, the Senate Bill 2038, and that was appropriations for a lot of the different social programs that came out, and it was unanimous. Everybody was on it from the House, both sides of the aisle, for the Senate. It flew out. Unfortunately, there was, as it happened, there were some games being played, and there was a drafting error. I mean, I'm not going to go on everything. One of the things that really struck me as interesting as, you know, the crisis hotline, yeah, it paid for the people to be on there, but it's not going to pay for the phone bill. You know, so there was, again, games being played in Springfield. So I do not see, they're going to put it back. It probably will not get signed as is until that does get cleaned up. The others, but, and again, I had some other things, but I'm clearly not doing my job. Because when I'm here and we have our committees and we talk about that, there's no budget. There's no dollars coming in. And the department heads and everybody else doesn't make it to my legislative meetings, and I am not reporting correct. I cannot make this any more clear that no one can count on $1 coming in from Springfield. There's not going to be another budget. We just got a call, and right now, they can't, where Governor Ronner and everyone's putting it on him, both, you know, the Democrats are not showing a bill. They're not showing a budget. And the best was, they're the only ones. The Democrats can only, that of the party, that can pass a budget. The governor can only sign one. We are broke. This is not going to happen. We're also now hearing, and Nick, I just got this, or I would have told you because we definitely discussed these legislative issues, but now they're also talking about these pass-through dollars that the appropriations, and now we're going to have issues. And I don't know if this goes on with 911, if this is going to go with the motor fuel tax, but it's just, it's bleak, and I can't stress this enough. So it was very disappointing because I thought that we could possibly meet somewhere in the middle, and getting that news this morning was a little rough. So with that, very bad news, I will say our next meeting is June 14th at 9 a.m. And really, if we report every month, and I could give you more information, and hopefully we have some by then. So anyone, please, you're all more than welcome to come.
Thank you, Suzanne. Next up, Capital Improvements Committee, Ms. Freitag, Chairperson.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. There are no resolutions at this time. I would just like to thank everyone, not everyone, but those that came out for the Relay for Life event the other night, and remind everyone that the actual Relay for Life event is June 4th, and we'd like to see everyone out there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, our next meeting, sorry, is scheduled for June 7th at 11 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you, Reagan. Next up, Executive Committee, Mr. Mustis, Chairperson, Chairman.
Good morning, Mr. Executive, County
Morning,
Board
Jim.
members. Our first item is to go into public hearing, so I'll make a motion to go into public hearing for renewal of the Comcast cable television franchise agreement.
Moved by Mr. Mustis, second by Mr. Mayor to go into public hearing. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Sure. Mayor? Yes. Brooks? Yes. Howard? Yes. Ogala? Yes. Moran? Yes. Rice? Yes. Harris? Yes. Trenier? Yes. Benefield? Yes. Fritz? Yes. Freitag? Yes. Gould? Yes. Balich? Yes. Frizzalone? Yes. Winfrey? Yes. Parker? Yes. Staley Ferry? Yes. Wilhelmie? Yes. Hart? Yes. Tumanello? Yes. Weigel? Yes. Collins? Yes. Ferry? Yes. And Mustis?
Yes.
Thank you.
24 affirmative.
24 affirmative. We are in public hearing. Mr. Mistis?
Okay, if anybody has any questions or comments, I have some, but I'll wait to see if anyone else has any.
Maybe explain the
Well,
reason
basically,
why we're in the public hearing.
Yeah, the reason we're in public hearing, we're renewing a franchise agreement with Comcast. When cable service first came into communities, it was all cable, and this really, and what the companies needed from the public sector was the use of their right-of-way, whether it was going off poles or underground. So there was an agreement, so there would be some benefit to the public. For example, and I'm going to bring this up in relation to the county later, for example, public access channels that municipalities have, that was part of the agreement with Comcast. That's why you'll see that on Comcast, but you don't see it on others. I think these are 10-year agreements. I'm not quite sure. I think they're 10-year agreements. So every 10 years, they have to renew the agreement. State's Attorney's Office is currently reviewing the agreement. Mary Tatro mentioned this morning that there's still technical parts of the agreement that has to be worked out. But this has been around, I think, now for, I don't know, about 20 years now. There's probably that's what I'm thinking about, 20-year agreement. We've been in the agreement about 20 years, so that's basically what it is.
Anybody from the general public wishes to ask any questions? Anybody from the public ask any questions? Any last call?
I have some, not from the public, I'm not the public.
Okay.
I do have some.
Well,
can I go?
You want this recorded in a public hearing?
Yeah, I think I'm
part?
going to make this, I think I'm going to mention something in the public hearing.
Okay.
Because I do think this is about the benefit to the public, and then, of course, I'll probably mention it in the county board record also. Originally, as part of our agreement, we had access, the county had access to basically programming time. They would run our county board meetings on the cable station, just like the municipalities. The county executive's office would have some programming, and they would talk to other, perhaps areas of government, so we had access. And then we didn't, because Comcast said they needed that time and those slots for their programming. And we were out. Now, I mentioned this morning at the Republican caucus, and Mary Tatro from the State's Attorney's Office seemed to think that we had in our franchise agreement that we were supposed to be given access to a channel, which we don't have. So now I have to ask the question, in this franchise agreement, should we go forward with a franchise agreement that does not include access for the county as it originally had in the original agreement? My recollection is, this is such a long time ago, but my recollection is that the position of Comcast is that they did not need to give us programming according to the franchise agreement. So I think the public should have access. This county should have access just as the municipalities have access. It is, of course, run by volunteers and perhaps county staff, but I think that we should have that ability like we once had to help get out information about county government. I see Mary standing there, so maybe she's going to make comment.
So under the agreement that's before you, you do have the opportunity for a public governmental channel. I'm not sure what happened in the past, whether that I suspect it was not an issue of the channel, but rather an issue of Comcast wasn't going to come and actually tape the meetings any longer. I'm not sure what the facts of that situation were, but under this agreement, you are entitled to have access to a channel.
Well, Mary, my recollection is even when they said they would no longer record it, we agreed to record it, you know, and maybe I think that, and I'll ask the county executive about his recollection, because I know that the county executive's office utilized and he had programming that just abruptly stopped. I don't think that stopped on our end. We were, I believe, told that they did not have the time slot for us anymore. Larry, do you recall what happened here?
I don't. Anastasia, did you?
We were not ever given a certain time slot. We recorded programming and sent it out to the local channels across the county. They never abruptly stopped service with us.
Well, we used to go in their studio and do things. Okay. Well, I didn't know if you were around, so I'm going maybe further back than prior to the county executive, current county executive. I may be going back to the former. But I thought, Larry, you had programming that you used to call in other interests. It could be CED, you might be talking about economic development, it could be, and it was done in their studios, and they would put it on their channels. Then later they said, you can send it out.
Jim, I never went to Comcast studios to film anything. This was basically an agreement with myself and Dick Schuster.
Okay.
And that he, I think, was doing on his own time. And then we had the young man from the sheriff's office, Steve, that did the filming here for us at the county board meetings, set up over in what was the sheriff's facility over there at the IMCO building.
Okay, well, we did have access and at one point. I know the prior county executive for sure, because I went and did some of that program. I sat in on, I was part of that programming. But at any rate, something changed that gave us, I believe, a lot less access, because there was an access countywide channel that they eliminated.
Okay.
I know, but I'm not going to put them on the spot. I'd rather have this negotiated. Does he want
Jim, Tony, would you like to come down? We're still in public hearing.
I figured you'd come down during the county board meeting, but you can come down now.
State your name, Jim. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Executive. Thank you, members of Will County Board. My name is Tony Signorella. I'm a Senior Manager of Government Affairs for Comcast, and Will County is part of my territory. So, to your question, what you have in front of you is a model franchise agreement that's been negotiated with the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus in 2010 to 95%. That 5 to 10% that wasn't negotiated back in 2010, well, let me take a step back. About 350 plus communities and counties have adopted this model document in the greater Chicago region, Northwest Indiana, and Southwest Michigan. So this has been fully vetted. It's been adopted. To your point about programming, there really isn't any changes. In fact, I would submit that what we have here is a framework for you to even acquire more than what you have. Currently, we are protecting your access programming, as Mary had mentioned. There's really no change there. I don't know when you were speaking, 20, 25 years ago, I'm not sure, but everything is protected in terms of access programming, and it allows for the county in a 10-year time frame to acquire its own channel. So we negotiated this with Mary, with Nick, with Anastasia, and came up with a good plan that is really in other franchise agreements as well.
Well, let me first say, you mentioned all the mayors and municipalities. They don't have the county's interest at heart. if this worked the way you'd like to have it work in a perfect world, we would send our stuff to the community access channels and they would play it. That's not what happens. You may have some who'll do it, and some say, no, we won't do it, or we don't have time to put the county information on. There was originally a channel, whether it was Channel 3, I want to say it was like a Channel 3.
Possibly Channel 6.
That was an open channel that was kind of a countywide open channel originally. And that's where we would play and put our programming on. That channel was eliminated as a public access channel, countywide public access channel. This is my recollection. As a countywide access channel because the company needed it for programming, whether paid, I'm going to say paid programming, not, so there was originally that channel. It's been gone for some time, and that's what we accessed back. We don't have access. We don't have access, the county has access to nothing. You can say we have access to the municipal access channels, but we really don't because it's up to them whether they want to put it on.
So I would guess that what you're referring to was a shared channel. You said countywide, so that would mean the municipalities. And the programming that was done back then was probably smaller in time frame, enough to fill a shared channel countywide. I don't think it was technically a Will County channel, which it was solely your programming. But what you have here in front of you is the ability to acquire that channel. And that's why we mapped out this framework for you to do so.
So that would be on us. So you would give, and it could be 10 hours a week. I'm not saying that we have to have an exclusive channel. So you're saying in this agreement that we would have access. It doesn't specify the amount of time of access. I mean, I would like to get something that gives us maybe a little say, whether it's 20 hours of programming a week or whatever, 10 hours a week. I'd like to see something that gives us guaranteed access to some channel for a certain amount of hours a week. I mean, I think that's reasonable, and it certainly helps us. We can then start putting our meetings up on the channel, and we just don't have to use YouTube, because currently, we're totally, as far as I'm concerned, we're kind of cut out of the access, only in regard that we can go with hat in hand, I guess, and ask a municipality if they would please put our programming on, and then we're burdened with going to 20-some municipalities.
So I think, to your question, I think you'd need to work with staff in terms of programming, because Comcast doesn't come out and just, do programming that we could put on your channel.
No, we would do the program. We would just, we would do it.
And it would need to be enough to acquire a channel. I mean, it's not in anyone's interest to have a channel that's just blank, and Coffee with the Mayor comes up every 7 hours. So that is my point. So we want to make sure that programming is sufficient and it's enough to necessitate a channel.
Well, look, we're like an infomercial. Do you tell infomercials that, look, you got to have more than a half hour?
Well, local programming,
my point is that when you say we have to have enough programming, what I'm saying is we're looking maybe for 20 hours a week on a channel. We're not looking to dominate a channel. We're just looking to get time on a channel.
If you acquire your own channel, you can program your channel.
What's that mean, acquire our own channel?
There is a component where the county would have to reimburse Comcast for the cost of establishing that channel.
Do you require that of the municipalities?
There's nothing different here than what we acquire from other municipalities and other counties.
Do municipalities pay you for access?
Yes, they do.
I'd like to see those agreements.
If there's construction costs involved, yes.
No, I'm talking about programming costs. Are we going to have to pay to get our stuff on to the municipalities? I know that they buy their own equipment. I know they
correct
have to have all their own staff. But they have access to the channel. When they want to play it, they can play it.
If a municipality or a county has its own channel, they don't pay us to put their programming on their channel.
How did they get their channel? the municipalities? Did they pay for them?
If they don't have a channel, they come to us, they request it. We survey what needs to be done in order to provide, if in that case, it would most likely be fiber, construction costs. And we basically, start the process that way for them to acquire a channel.
My guess is, this is just an educated guess, that all these municipalities got their channels up front.
No, it runs the gamut. I think
Every 10 years, but my point is that.
you have some communities that do nothing and want to do nothing. You have communities that just have a bulletin board. You have communities that, want to do coffee with the mayor, their local programming, have more of a robust access programming. And then, so it runs the gamut. So that's why it's a section in the document that isn't completely hashed out in a framework. What's done is to allow the ability to negotiate, what do you want to do? And we sat down with Nick and Anastasia and talked about it. What's the possibility of Will County doing their own programming in a 10-year time frame? Well, that's very possible and likely, and I would think that a lot of people would want that. Well, then let's allow the ability for that to happen. That's kind of how this came together. So hopefully that answers the question.
I understand what you're saying. I'm still not clear on it, but I think we can. Mr. Howard?
Actually, I live in an unincorporated area in Eastern Will County. We'd just be happy to have Comcast, period. So hopefully, in the future, you could actually put us in that plan or whatever. I know the municipalities with the density and all that, I understand why they have it, actually. But the only alternative we have now is YouTube, so, and then basically we watch the county board meetings on YouTube, executive committees, that kind of stuff. But I have a lot of residents that do request, why don't we have Comcast, and maybe I'll ask you that question right now. Why don't we have Comcast? And we do have TVs and electric out there, so that is a good start, okay?
So I guess the easy way to answer that is, even though we would love to be absolutely everywhere in Illinois, it's not possible. So we are, to your point about density requirements for build-out, we abide by that. So, if you do have, residents in your area that don't receive Comcast and would like to, fantastic. We want to hear that. So, send me an email, get in touch with me. I can give you my card.
Please do.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, Tony,
Yes.
when you say there's a cost to acquiring a channel, can you give us a range of what the cost might be?
It really depends on where our fiber is, if where you're going to be broadcasting out of, if it would be this building, and where we're in relation to our plant. So there's going to be construction costs to bring our fiber to the location where you're going to be broadcasting from, and that's what the costs are.
Your fiber.
Yeah.
But, so, are we talking it could be $1 million or $2 million or $50,000?
We would need to survey that, but, what I can tell you, there is a section in the document that allows for PEG capital support. So what we've done in order to, help out with those costs, the county, if it chooses to go this route, we could submit a PEG capital fee at your request, and we would pass that through to all subscribers in Will County. It would be unincorporated Will County to generate dollars so you could build your PEG capital. You can build your access programming, build your channel, and that will help out with your costs. So it's not just out of your pocket. You have a way to generate some dollars to do it, if you so choose. That would be on you.
Mr. Howard, or excuse me, Mr. Moran?
I was just going to say, I'm looking at this Section 8 in the franchise agreement, and it says that, we give you 180 days notice, we get an access channel. The sticking point, I guess, now listening to this debate seems to be about what the cost would be for the origin point, if there's any cost to upgrade services to get there. You just mentioned that there's a provision in here to collect 35 cents from each subscriber. I would argue, and I don't think the language is real clear in here, that 35 cents per subscriber, if it was necessary for a capital project to improve the origin point so that we could have a studio here or whatever, would apply to all county residents, because we don't just oversee everything that the county does isn't solely relegated to to unincorporated Will County. The thing that's in here that we should pay attention to is the grantee use of unused time. So in other words, we ask you for a channel, you let us put our programming on it, but if we don't use all the time up, then Comcast can reclaim that time that we're not using back to put their own programming on. All of that's spelled out in this franchise agreement. I don't know why we're having a real long debate about it.
Ms. Winfrey?
Mr. Executive, I'm just, as I understand it, the issue is, with the agreement that is being proposed for Comcast, it mirrors what is typically done, and it allows for us, as we grow, as the community needs it, to do the programming that we want on a channel of our own.
I would agree with that.
Then I would say let's call the vote.
Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. Mr. Mustis, we're still in public hearing.
I was actually going to make a motion.
Any last comments, general public, in regards to this? Any? Mr. Mustis?
I'll make a motion to come out of public hearing.
Moved by Mr. Mustis, second by Mr. Mayor. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Sure. Mayor?
Yes.
Brooks?
Yes.
Howard?
Yes.
Ogalla? Yes. Moran?
Yes.
Rice? Yes. Harris?
Yes.
Trainier? Yes. Benefield? Fritz? Yes. Freitag? Gould? Balich? Frislow?
Yes.
Winfrey? Yes. Parker? Yes. Staley Ferry? Yes. Wilhelmie? Hart? Tumanello?
Yes.
Weigel?
Yes.
Collins? Ferry?
Yes.
And Mustis. Thank you.
23 affirmative.
23 affirmative. Public hearing has been closed. Moving on to
Thank you.
16142, Mr. Mustis. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
And I'll move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Mustis, second by Mr. Mayor. Any questions? Any questions? Previous roll call by Ms. Parker.
I do have something, Mr. Executive.
Mr. Mustis.
I just wanted to restate basically what I stated in the public hearing, which I did get clarification on, and that is that this county is, in this agreement, this county has access to a programming and a channel. I would hope we would pursue that. In public hearing, I was pretty much assured that that is part of the agreement, so I just wanted to say that it's part of the county board record, Mr. Executive. So that's all. That's my only comment.
Okay. Motion in a second. Previous roll call by Mr. Gould, second by Mr. Tumanello. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary, motion has carried.
Sure.
Thank you, Darren.
Okay. Next, we have 16143, abating property tax to Julian Electric, Inc. I'll move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Musa, second by Mr. Mayor. Any questions? Mr. Tumanello? Question, Mr. Tumanello?
Thank you, Mr. Executive. You know, as a member of the Ad Hoc Economic Development Committee, it was quite refreshing this month to see a company like Julian Electric come before us. Julian Electric's been in business since 1959, and it's a third-generation business. Not only have we seen in the past companies who are already located in Will County ask for these types of abatements, this company is going to move not only their manufacturing facility, but their entire corporate headquarters to Will County. This is not a logistics company like we've been seeing for the last couple of years. This is an actual manufacturing facility that will add over 70 new jobs, and they're willing to make a $15 million capital investment into Will County. I would urge my colleagues to vote yes on this matter.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ray. Any other comments? Any other comments? Previous roll by Mr. Gould, second by Mr. Balich. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary, motion has carried. Would you have a yes vote?
Thank you.
Thank you, Darren. Okay, Jim.
Okay. And next we have 144, authorizing the county executive to execute a workforce investment contract with Terrafin Corporation for a business grant for employee training, and I will move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Musta, second by Mr. Frizzalone. Any questions? Previous roll call by Ms. Winfrey, second by Ms. Rice. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary, motion has carried.
Next, we have 16-145, authorizing the county executive to amend the contract with DLR to include design engineering services for a dispatch center and ETSB, and I will move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Mustis, second by Ms. Hart. Any questions? Any questions? Previous roll by Mr. Wilhelmy, second by Mr. Ferry. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary, motion has carried.
Next, we have 16-146, authorizing the county executive to amend the contract with Leopardo for additional pre-construction services for a dispatch center and ETSB, and I will move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Mustis, second by Mr. Gould. Any question? Any questions? Previous roll by Mr. Mayor, second by Mr. Trenier. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary, motion is carried.
Next, we have 16-147, declaring vehicles as surplus and authorizing disposal, and I will move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Mustis, second by Ms. Rice. Any questions? Previous roll by Ms. Parker, second by Ms. Collins. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary, motion has carried.
Next, we have 16-148, awarding bid for household hazardous waste collection. I will move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Mustis, second by Mr. Wilhelmy. Any questions? Previous roll by Ms. Winfrey, second by Mr. Moran. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary, motion is carried.
Next, we have 16-149, amending the CDBG home advisory bylaws, and I will move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Mustis, second by Ms. Winfrey. Any questions? Previous roll by Mr. Harris, second by Mr. Howard. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary, motion is carried.
Next, we have 16-150, authorizing the county executive to execute an IGA with the Village of Manhattan for the transference of eminent domain, and I will move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Mustis, second by Mr. Gould. Any questions? Previous roll by Ms. Freitag, second by Ms. Hart. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion is carried.
Next, we have the Health Department finances and budget and funding. There will be some proposals, Mr. Executive, since it doesn't state it here. I do think we'll be putting some proposals. If I can say a few words first, and that this deals with basically, well, not basically, this deals with some issues at the Health Department and the lack of funding coming from the state of Illinois and the ability of the county to perhaps bridge some time for the Health Department to continue services. You know, I will say that I have found the whole process a little disappointing. Before we had press conferences and news conferences and everybody calling, you know, I was approached by Mr. Gould, who sits on the health board, who asked me, do you think that that the chairman of their board said, do you think we can have a discussion, or is there a possibility we could restructure the loan repayment? Everybody should keep in mind that the county loaned the health department $3 million in April, and now in April, and in March, I'm sorry, and then in May, you know, we're getting these requests after we just gave $3 million. So of course there's some questions to be answered. We didn't know exactly what the structure or how the, you know, we don't get that involved with the health department. The health department has a health department board that makes their decisions for the health department. We don't make decisions for them. Even the financing, the budget of the health department is almost just like a pass-through through the county budget. It's approved by the health board. I assume they know crises and potential crises they may face. You know, so when Mr. Gould asked me about, do you think, you know, we can talk about the restructure of the repayment of the $3 million loan, I said, sure. We've done it before. I mean, it's not like this is a unique situation where the county has lent other departments funds before in a loan. So this would have been nothing new. We've done it with the highway forever. So I said, sure, you know, we could have that discussion. I think we could work something out. You know, we tend to, at least I tend to want to be as transparent as possible. And that's why everything, just about everything, comes through committee. So everybody's aware of what's going on. And this was no different. It came to committee, but it came to committee, I think, more as a proposal. Well, here are the proposals. You know, we need 1.7 million to get us through, or, well, that was the initial proposal, say. At the committee, I requested, well, I don't think all these pros are going to be sustainable through your tax levy. We know they're not going to be sustainable through the grants. The grants are gone, and they're not coming back. This year's budget for the state is done. So, you know, nothing's going to go back retroactively. So I had requested, well, bring back what you think is sustainable and something you think is absolutely a necessary function for the county, which occurred, which was, I keep losing the number, 426,000, is it, or 428,000? 426, okay. Which I supported, by the way, at committee, even though I was in the minority on that. And then was requested that it would go to the full county board, regardless of with the recommendation of a negative recommendation. And then it was, you know, were members who wanted to get more information, so they were hoping to let it come back to committee. And all this comes to us in May with this date of we have to do this by the 27th or there's going to be layoffs. Well, give us no time. You know, this is like take it or leave it, you know, and now, you know, we have the employees upset. We have, look, in my opinion, that was an artificial drop-dead date. Here again, to pressure this board not to get all the information it needed to make an informed decision. So let's make it clear. That was a date that was put on by the health board that they either get the funding by the 27th or this is done. The truth is, you could have kept it going, health board. You're starting to get your real estate tax revenues now. You know, you're going to start getting your levy at the end of this month. So to put this artificial drop-dead date on this board and then creating what I think, and then having public officials, countywide public officials, the union, get up on a podium and basically further the crisis, in my opinion. Let's make it, so now you're taking it from the solution bucket and let's put it in the political bucket. And in my view, that's exactly what happened. It was about politics. It was about trying to make this Republican majority board look bad. And in my view, that's my view. Now, I'm sure you have a different view, many of you. But that's the result, in my opinion. Having said all this, I'm going to, because it really deals with finances, I'm going to yield the floor to Mr. Frizzalone to talk about what we felt was a solution going forward. So if I may, Mr. Executive, I'd like to yield the floor to Finance Chairman Frizzalone.
Mr. Frizzalone?
Thank you. So as Mr. Musa said, in an effort to bridge the gap until the levy revenues arrive, the county lent the Health Department $3 million in March. This money is to be repaid as the levy monies are received, but no later than the end of this fiscal year, 2016. And while I feel the Health Board could have done a better job of assessing the situation earlier and preparing for our current issues, they made no effort to have a sit-down with the board and have a meaningful discussion. Now, I am aware of, as of last night, only through the newspapers, that the Health Board has more or less endorsed the resolution that, the motion that I'm about to make. So we are suggesting that the board postpones and defers the repayment of $426,873 of the $3 million until the 2017 budget year, as levy revenues are received. This means that only $2.573,127 would need to be repaid this fiscal year, with the balance being paid and due next year, unless the grant money comes through, at which time we would expect the full $3 million to be repaid. So I'd like to go ahead and make the motion. Wow, that was fast.
Make the motion. What's?
Yeah, so the motion is to move that we postpone and defer the repayment of $426,873 of the $3 million previously loaned to the Health Department until the 2017 budget year. This money will be paid as levy monies arrive or when previously appropriated grant monies arrive, whichever occurs first.
Moved by Mr. Frizzalone, second by Mr. Tumanello. Mr. Balich, do you have a question?
I have a lot of questions, and I never had a chance to answer them in committee. I go to every committee meeting, and there was no opportunity to get my questions out because it happened so fast, concurring with Mr. Mustas. So we're asked to vote on something, and I don't have all the information that I would really feel important. And, you know, a lot of the questions I have are just plain questions, but there's also policy questions. And, you know, we're going to vote on it. Now, in the interest of the people that are served by the health department, they just don't throw them out to the dogs. I'm caught in the middle. We're in a lose-lose situation here. You can't hurt the people, but at the same time, this program's probably going to have to come to an end at one point. So I think that, when we have this vote, I'll be voting in favor of it, but I sure won't vote in favor of it again, because we need to transition out of the programs that aren't going to get funding, or else decide as a board that we're going to come up with some type of funding, and as far as I'm concerned, it can't come from raising property taxes, as our people are paying way too much property taxes right now. So there's a big pool of money that's needed, and I don't see where we're going to get it from. So, I'm reluctant to vote yes, but I will be voting yes. But really, all of us board members have to look at it. You're going to have to answer to your constituents, where are we going to get the money to fund all these programs? There's the Redeploy Illinois. What about that one? That's a real good program. And we can go on and on about the good programs. Where are we getting the money? So we're caught in a bind right now. So, we have to look at it like, if we end this program, you're going to have a lot of people with behavioral problems running the street with problems. So I think I'm voting yes, but I sure in the heck want to see the programs transition out of the whole process. And I FOIA, just so everybody knows, I gave a FOIA for 7 of the questions I had to get answered already to your office, and it'll be answered. But we're going to have to vote prior to me knowing the answers, and I don't feel comfortable with that.
Mr. Executive, we do have...
Mr. Mustas?
We do have speakers that signed up.
Yes,
but
we have.
because this went on the agenda late, I would, and I assume some of those folks signed up for the special meeting. I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules to allow speakers.
Moved by Mr. Mussis, second by Mr. Howard. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, Mr. Mussis, may I suggest that before we get into the general public, to bring the executive director of the health department, Ms. Sue Lennick, down to the front for either the board members can ask questions of her, and if she's got something to offer.
Well, I'm hoping that a lot of things are answered.
Well,
I'll answer the questions for the public.
I'm hoping they are too,
They
but
won't need to
I
speak.
think it's
agree.
prudent that Sue gets a chance to come down
That's fine.
and speak.
That's fine.
Thank you.
You can say it. They're just going to testify.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is Susan Olenek, and I'm the Executive Director of the Will County Health Department. I appreciate the opportunity to present today and make a final appeal to prevent laying off a large portion of the Health Department staff and preventing needed programs from suspension. I'd like to first inform you, it sounds like you already have the information, regarding the Board of Health meeting yesterday and the resolution that the Board of Health passed. They passed this resolution to clarify the repayment process. And in fact, if the county board votes in favor of the loan, the health department would be repaying the $426,873 next fiscal year. The resolution read as this. Whereas due to the lack of budget not set by the state of Illinois for fiscal 2016, the lack of funds has resulted in the layoff of 59 employees, including adult behavioral health programs, and whereas on March 17th, the Will County Board approved the interfund loan to the Health Department in the amount of $3 million in the form of a temporary loan, and whereas the Board of Health appreciates the interfund loan provided by the County Board and the County Executive, and whereas the Board of Health respectfully proposes the following repayment schedule for the interfund loan, with the first repayment of $1 million in July of 2016, the second payment consisting of $1 million in August of 2016, and the third repayment in the amount of $573.127 in October of 2016. Whereas the Board of Health respectfully requests the final payment consisting of $426,873 to be deferred until fiscal year 2017. This repayment schedule will allow retention for these mental health programs and staff.
It doesn't say when.
Now,
Yeah.
therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Health approves the interfund repayment schedule as presented, signed by our Board of Health's James E. Zelko last evening. I think the Board of Health felt it necessary and prudent to formally express to the County Board its appreciation for the loan and its willingness to repay it in a timely manner. For the benefit of all in the room, I'd like to provide the synopsis of the current situation. Historically, the Health Department has been fiscally responsible and has been operating within its budget year, fiscal year after fiscal year. This year has been no different. Due to the state of Illinois budget impasse and the revenue deficit to our agency of over $2.1 million, the Board of Health at its April meeting approved a mitigation plan totaling just over $1.9 million in projected savings for June through November, the end of our fiscal year. This included the suspension of 9 programs, a total of 58 full-time employees, and freezing several vacant positions throughout the agency. I presented this information as requested to the Public Health and Safety Committee on May 5th. At this meeting, there appeared a willingness from those present to provide some financial assistance to the Health Department, and I was requested to return with a recommendation from the Health Department to the Executive Committee on May 12th. The result of that committee meeting brings me before you today. As I mentioned earlier, the Board of Health has been financially responsible and has operated within its budget. Our agency has cut personnel 4 times in the last 4 years. This will be the 5th. In January of 2015, our agency underwent a very comprehensive analysis of all of our programs. The County Board received a presentation on that. That was our strategic program analysis. We looked at services, staffing, and finances. This document has been the guiding tool to help us prepare to make decisions regarding programs and staffing in the future of our agency. The Board of Health and the leadership at the Health Department anticipated early on the need for an objective analysis of our programs. However, the inaction of the state to pass a budget with attached appropriations has presented an unprecedented situation. The Board of Health took their action last month to be fiscally responsible, to operate within their budget. However, a loan from the county board would allow us to be responsive to the needs of the thousands of clients seeking our services and the programs slated for suspension and layoff. The loan would allow us some time to see the outcome at the state level. Now, I heard what Suzanne indicated earlier regarding the state budget and the status at the state. However, none of us know exactly how it's going to play out, when it's going to play out, and what the outcome will be. Again, I thank you for this opportunity to address the county board and ask that you vote yes to approve this loan on behalf of the many affected employees and clients we serve. These services have a very positive impact on our employees, our clients, the residents, and the communities of Will County. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Don Gould, you're next up on the, would you like to make a comment while Sue's at the podium, or? Go ahead, Ben.
Say that the people who serve on the Board of Health are good people. They're largely made up of medical professionals and retired medical professionals, physicians. We've had dentists over the years and so forth. And, I mean, let's not make this issue harder than it is. If this is a state-induced crisis. This is what it is. This is not something that the Board of Health brought about, the county board brought about, or anybody else. Don't make it a harder issue than it is. It's a state-induced crisis. If the money came from the state to fund these grants, we wouldn't be having this discussion today, pure and simple. And the fact of the matter is when you talk about these grants, some of these grants, Susan, we discussed at the board, they've been there for 10 years, and the state has never increased the dollars that Will County receives. So
Correct.
We're operating with the same grant amount of money that we operated with like 10 years ago.
Correct.
Okay? The other thing that the county board members need to understand is that not every health department in the state of Illinois is the same. And you should remember that when we had the strategic analysis done, there were 4 categories, one being statutorily required, 2, things that were high risk, and then 3 and 4, things that we just, in the goodness of our hearts, so to speak, went about and carried out because Will County decided they wanted to pursue these grants, okay? And Mr. Cicero developed a plan where he said, all right, we'll have to do away with a lot of these Category 4 things because the state of Illinois is not coming through funding the money. Now, I take a little bit of issue to say that the Board of Health proposed an artificial date because you can't have it both ways. If you said there's money coming in from the levy and, oh, you don't need to pursue this with the county board, you can just wait. If you waited until the end of the fiscal year, people would say, oh, why did you wait so long? Why did you wait until the 11th month of the fiscal year before you decided to come to the Will County Board? So, in actuality, we're here because of the state. I don't think that it's unreasonable to say at $426,000, which will take us to the end of the fiscal year, which will give the people who are served by those programs some certainty, okay, that this will be fulfilled. On the other hand, Susan, you got a budget coming up December 1st, and as Suzanne Hart said earlier, you're not going to be able to count on it. So that's my comments.
Thank you very much, Don. That's great comments. So, Mr. Mayor, would you like to speak at this time?
Yeah, just a quick comment at this time.
Okay.
Later. At the executive committee, I had the first vote and voted to bring this before the board, and then rescinded my vote a little bit later on because as I thought about it, the only option that was coming forward was an option 2 that talked about paying us back for 3 years. And it's been indicated, felt that it was moving too fast and that we needed to slow this down to get more information before we were able to bring it back. So I'm glad that we are having this ability to have these discussions and that there has been some restructuring, because I was able to work with leadership here at the committee to make sure that we had the processes that we could live with. So that's all for now.
Thank you. Mr. Darren, Benefield?
Mr. Executive, for the past 2 weeks, we've been inundated with emails from employees of the Health Department. We've been inundated with clients of the Health Department regarding cuts in services. I just want to be quite frank on this. There's no one on this board that wants to cut services. And for those that go out and say that that's what this board wants to do, is just unacceptable. That said, I do have a question for Susan, and within this structure of the $426,000 that you've requested assistance for repayment, I understand that the AFSCME employees also have a raise coming in June or July. What is the monetary amount that's allocated for that raise that's coming?
Got it.
There you go.
Yes, that is correct. The AFSCME employees are slated for a 2.5% increase on June 1. And if we are to look at just the union employees, status quo, no layoffs, business as usual, it would be about $158,000, somewhere around there.
Okay. I just have just a few more questions so I can just work this through. This has been presented as a crisis for us. It's not a crisis that we've created, but we're unfortunately on the state funds aren't coming through. Susan, do you consider this a crisis yourself?
Yes, I do consider it a crisis. I've been at the health department since 1986, and we've weathered a lot of storms. This is the biggest typhoon I've ever seen. I mean, this is a perfect storm, as they call it. I have never seen such inaction of the state of Illinois. We're used to getting our contracts in coming a little bit late. We're used to getting our payments a little bit late. But we work within that structure, and we've always worked within that structure, and we've been successful. But when you're providing these services because they're important to the community, and you're not getting paid for them, and you've got payroll, you've got expenses. We didn't take this lightly, and that's why we didn't do this early on, like some people suggested. You're dealing with the lives of many people here. You're dealing with employees that have worked for us for a very long time. You're dealing with people that come to us for services and have established relationships with our staff and our programs. And you don't take that lightly. You don't do a knee-jerk response to this and say, oh, we'll just do this. So we waited it out as long as we can. And that end date of May 27th was not to pressure anybody. That end date was a date decided by the Board of Health, not knowing at all that the county board would be susceptible to any kind of a loan. We didn't, that was never even discussed. So that was a deadline that was decided by our Board of Health based upon the fact that June 1 starts the second half of the fiscal year. And you wait too long to do this, you have a lot less time to mitigate the shortfall, and then the cuts need to be steeper. So, sorry, that was more than you asked for.
No, that's fine. I'm glad that you do believe this is a crisis, because I believe it's a crisis too. During my experience, when a crisis situation happens, everybody needs to do their part on making sure that it gets mitigated and it gets addressed properly. In that tone, I wanted to ask that, have you asked the AFSCME employees to forego their raise increases as their gesture so that we can provide those additional funds to continue providing services uninterrupted? And if you have, what was their response?
No, I have not asked that question. We are contractually obligated to provide those increases come June 1. If we didn't do that, we would be in violation of our contract.
Okay, that's all for me. Thank you very much,
Darren.
Susan.
Next up, Mr. Ballage.
So I gave you a list of what I FOIA'd. Are any of those questions on that sheet where you're able to or want to answer right now?
I don't think I brought it up here with me, Steve, because those questions are pretty comprehensive, and actually I need clarification on most of
Yeah,
them.
well, I'm just looking
I
at,
don't
we have
know-
a spending problem, that I want to address.
Right.
And, so when we're given money, right now, it looks like approximately a third of the money that we're loaning is going for public sector employee raises, right?
Right.
About a third.
Yeah, we're contractually obligated to do that.
I get that, but about a third. And then that doesn't include the ones that aren't in a union. So you add that in, so probably closer to half of all the money is going to go for raises. And then there's questions I have about charging, how much people are charged, and
Right.
about undocumented people that were, you said 6% at the executive committee, that 6% of the people are undocumented and they don't pay. Do they pay anything? Or they just go for free? I mean, under the Unaffordable Care Act, you got skin in the game. You got to pay something. And so if you're an illegal, you get a better treatment than a citizen. I mean, that's kind of where the gist of some of these questions are.
Right.
And I need to know.
Right, and I think those are valid questions, and I think that we can get clarification on your questions and get those questions answered, but respectfully, I think that's a little bit of a separate issue than this today.
Well,
That's pretty complex.
It's very, very pertinent to what we're doing here. When you look at all the questions I have,
Mhm.
if you answer them, maybe there's no problem. But maybe there is. Maybe all that $426,000 is included in these questions. I mean, we don't know.
The comment that you made regarding the increases, half of the increases are going to go, or half of this loan's going to go for the increases. We have been looking at our budget all along, and when we budgeted for this fiscal year, instead of just doing the normal, we're going to attrition, many positions, and we're going to be able to accumulate over a period of time the amount of money that we need to provide these increases, because we're not funded for those. We actually did a little bit different approach this year, and we budgeted only at 97% for our full-time employees, our salaries. So I don't know that it's a fair thing to say that, half of this money is going to be just going for raises. I mean, it goes into the pot, and then we pay whatever we need to pay.
Right,
if
but
that's
your pot is
non-personnel expenses,
unsustainable.
if
I mean,
it's...
we can't keep giving money that we don't have, the state doesn't have, and the people certainly don't have money to be paying more in taxes. So where are we getting the money for, even though it's in a contract, which we're stuck with, but where are we getting the money to pay all these raises? We're going to go in the backyard and pull it off everybody's tree? I mean, this is totally absurd. It's unsustainable.
Well, we'll be happy to repay the $426,000 next fiscal year, and we're comfortable with that number. We think that that is a very workable number, and it's a responsible number that our Board of Health and I have decided on, that moving forward we can do that.
Ms. Ogala.
Yeah, first I do want to say thank you, Sue, for providing all the information that you have, as I requested starting out at my Public Health and Safety Committee on May 5th. And I do want to reiterate what Mr. Benefield said, that no one on this board ever wants to have to cut jobs, and most especially, we do not want to cut services to the residents that need it. So because of that, this is here before us today. And I know that the Health Department has gone through many different layers of looking at programs, eliminating programs, determining which ones we need to keep. And I know it is Sue's plan at budget time to do that even further. So that, I just want to thank you for all your professionalism and what you've done.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Thank you. And also, I do want to thank the board for dealing with this issue. A lot of different things have happened, and tempers have flared here and there. And well, when it's a crisis, everybody responds, and we don't have a lot of time to react to it. So I think everybody did try their best to work together to solve this issue. And I just wanted to say thank you, everyone, for supporting something that I think is very important. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Mr. Mustis.
Yeah, Sue, I have a couple questions, but I guess the main question I would have is similar to what I asked in committee, and that is what programs do you think are going to go forward or be sustainable without the grants? This is so temporary. I mean, I think everyone here recognizes the facts, and hopefully also all the employees at the health department understand. The health department board has made its decision. They said these programs will be eliminated.
Correct.
Because of budget reasons. You know, they're going to be in that same position come December 1st. You know, not only will they have the perhaps not getting grant money, you know, now you're going to have the additional burden of paying back $426,000 back to the county. And I guess I don't envision, and I guess I want to make this clear, I don't envision, this is not going to be some kind of revolving charge card type of situation.
Absolutely not.
So you're still going to have to make these tough decisions, elimination of perhaps additional programming, and perhaps reduce your workforce even further. I guess, you know, how do you view this? I mean, you view this as, I view it as so temporary that this maybe gives you some transition time, not only for your patients, but also for the employees. I don't see these programs going forward long term. Now, I guess that's what I'm asking. What's your vision for these programs going forward? Are they sustainable or not?
Honestly, I don't know. The way that it looks right now, probably not. But I don't know. You know, part of the other thing when I talked about this perfect storm before, you know, we used to know what the state was doing. We used to know what the state budget was going to be. We used to know what the funding levels would be moving forward. Right now, we don't know that. I mean, our agency is typically already in the budget-making mode for next fiscal year. I spoke with my division directors a couple of days ago at our meeting, and I said, there's nothing to put together. We have no idea where the state is. So I don't know what will be sustainable, but Mr. Mustis and the board, be advised that we understand that moving forward into the next budget year, we will have more decisions to make, and it will involve programs and it will involve staff. There's no doubt about it, but I don't know to what extent. I don't know what programs, and I don't know how much money. But we are committed. We're not just saying, oh, thanks for the money, and we're going to try and do business as usual. No, this $426,873 is going to be able to provide us with some time. And if, in fact, these programs that it's reinstating won't be sustainable, it will give us an opportunity as an agency to do the responsible thing in transitioning our clients to other providers in the community. It's not going to slam the door in their face.
And that's what I think we're providing here, a transition period. I'm glad to hear what you said, is that you will take this as an opportunity to perhaps use it to transition not only your patients / clients,
right,
and give staff opportunities maybe to seek other opportunities. I don't envision a zero from the state, to be honest with you, but I am not expecting a whole lot from them either.
Right. I mean, a lot of it will depend.
Our expectation should be low, I guess, of the state.
Yeah, my bar's pretty low right now.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
It will depend on, you know, A, are we going to get any of the money from fiscal 16 they owe us? I don't know. Probably not. If we do, I'm going to throw a party. Probably not. What will be the funding levels if they provide any funding moving forward into fiscal 17 for any of these programs? What will be the funding? I don't know. It might be at 50%, it might be at 80%, it might be nothing, I don't know. Those are the unknowns that we're dealing with right now. And we're looking for some time to be able to look at this a little bit better.
You know, so I know you've told us the shortfall, but out of the total state funding, how much did you receive again? I know you mentioned this once. I want to see we're $2.5 million short of
I think
expectations.
we received close to $3 million from the state.
Okay.
Like overall.
Okay.
The state programs.
And what would you normally have budgeted for in revenue from the state?
That's the $3 million that I'm speaking of. That's the
what
revenue.
you actually received.
Yes.
But what was your budgeted amount? You say you were $2 million short. So did you anticipate collecting $5 million from the state?
I don't have that number right now.
Okay. I mean,
Sure, 2.2 plus 3 is 5.2.
So there was a
Yeah, I know, but I don't have the exact number.
Okay, there was a shortfall of approximately $2 million
Right.
from the state.
Correct.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Thank you.
Mr. Frislow?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify for everybody so they know what the motion is versus what the health board suggested. The health board has asked that 127 million be paid back in July, in August, in October as $1 million and 500,000, where the motion gave you a little bit more latitude to take that money till the end of this fiscal year. So it gives you a little bit more flexibility in how you pay. So it gives you a little bit more room to finagle till you get to the end of the year, rather than setting hard and fast dates throughout the rest of this year.
We appreciate that.
The payment.
We were just trying to be, prudent and making sure that you understand our commitment.
Right. I just wanted you to be aware, we're giving you a little bit more
Thank you.
wiggle room.
Mr. Howard?
Thank you, Sue, and you're in a very, very tough spot. We all understand that. And basically, I'm not even near your position or whatever, and actually I had increased my blood pressure medicine. So, I mean, this whole thing is very, very stressful. So
I had to get my biometric screening on a Saturday because there was no way I was going to pass that on a weekday, but I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. But along those lines is basically, I think all of us can agree on one thing in the room today, that, that this is a state problem. But it's also, and I'll go into a little bit more in depth, it's also a national problem too. I mean, we're at a point where we have two philosophical views actually colliding at this point in time,
Yes.
and it's like, who do we help and how can we help them, I think is really the debate. Actually, yesterday I was in Springfield. I witnessed the rally down there. There was over 10,000 people. I'm guessing there was quite a few more. It was actually on the Rachel Maddox show. But anyway, I think we're going to see a lot more of that. And the theme down there was basically the social issue. Basically, we're losing programs. We're consistently losing. Okay, we're doing more with less. We can't do more anymore. Now we're actually doing less with less. And my concern is basically there were programs that are getting eliminated today. This $426,000 is basically just putting a stopgap, allowing a transition period. But we're also losing other programs. That's what's not being talked about, and that's what I'm very concerned about, at this point in time. So, and I mean, a lot of these had measurable output. These programs actually were looked at. They developed because there was measurable outcomes, and you looked at the negative outcome, and basically without these programs, there is going to be a negative outcome. So, again, I'd like this morning to hear more from some other speakers along that line, but again, what is your view on that? I mean, as far as what we're losing is not getting talked about. What we're saving a very, very small portion. And some of those programs, to my understanding, have to do with counseling a new mother coming in, that type of thing, about infant care, about the actual how to assess their child's development, and look at certain things, like even something simple as a car seat, the proper way to install a car seat into a car for an infant. So Again, on a national level, state level, whatever, and I don't want that C to happen at our own level now, is basically we're starting to put a value on life, a dollar amount on someone's life. So, I'm concerned about that. And on the other hand, and I'll get back to my question in a minute here. This morning we approved over $275 million general obligation bond for a courthouse, for a building. Okay, in 20 years, I'm going to be an old man, and probably that courthouse is going to be somewhat obsolete. If we make an investment in a child or a mother, expecting mother today, or an infant, in 20 years that person's going to be an adult. So what we could do today to prevent that person from living a negative lifestyle, what perceived a negative lifestyle, hopefully they won't end up in that courthouse before a judge to be judged for something that they did or didn't do in society. So again, I'd like to hear your view on what we're actually losing. So that's important to me.
Certainly.
So.
The other things that will be affected and not restored, I think that's what you're asking me to comment on. It's one large program, and I'll get to that in just a second, but I don't want anyone to lose sight of the other positions that will be frozen throughout the agency as well. We don't have layers and layers and layers of staff. We all wear a lot of hats. And so when you're talking about freezing positions, there is an impact. There's an impact to those in the agency that are pulling up the slack, and there's also an impact to the community. We have frozen several positions. We froze 3 in administration. We froze a couple of in environmental health. Environmental health is a core public health program division, and we actually froze the leadership position in that division. Right now, Elizabeth Bellata is wearing 2 hats, and they're 2 really big hats. And she's going to have to wear those hats for a very long time. That's not easy. I don't want people to lose sight of the sacrifices that some other people are making. We're also freezing 6 positions in our community health center. Another direct service kind of, we provide direct medical services and dental services. That will have an impact on the community as well. So it's just not programs, it's also freezing other positions. The family case management is the large program that will not be staved for layoff. And the decision there is because that many of the services that are provided in family case management are provided in relation with our WIC program. WIC and case management are really 2 separate programs, and they were brought together several years ago and integrated so that the clients would be able to have one visit, and WIC would cover the WIC questions and and family case management questions, and it would all come together in one visit, about 45 minutes to an hour, depending on the client and the situation. Well, over the year, things have changed, and basically, every family case management client we have is a WIC client. So the people that are in case management are not going to be put out on the street. They're still going to be seen by our WIC staff. They're still coming to our agency. There are things that are covered on a family case management visit that will now be part of the WIC visit. We're talking about nutrition for mom and baby. We're talking about access to primary care. We have a community health center right across the parking lot. I know that our WIC staff are going to say, oh, you need a doctor? We've got a community health center right across the way. Making sure immunizations that the kids have immunizations. We have an immunizations clinic. That question comes up, that information is brought to attention. We have an immunization clinic right around the corner. There you go. Like I said, nutrition. There are certain screenings that case management does, depression screenings and developmental screenings, okay? Those will not be done anymore. But you know what? The Affordable Care Act requires primary care doctors do those as part of their visits. So our WIC staff are going to be making sure that the family case management, who were family case management clients, have a primary care doctor, and then the primary care doctor needs to do his job or her job and ask those questions. That is under the ACA. When family case management was first initiated several years ago, there was no ACA. The requirements have changed. So we really don't feel like there's going to be 3,500 clients out there now without services. And that was the main reason why family case management was chosen.
Thank you. Thank you. Ms. Trainier and...
I'm sorry, can I say one other thing?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't want to lose sight of the finances, too. If we eliminate or lay off the family case management program, it will save us about $600,000 in levy. And so, to me, for providing duplicative services, $600,000 can now go towards another program in the agency.
Hey, Larry, can I ask her a quick question on that?
Yes, we got to bring this, go ahead.
Yeah, will they receive the same amount of care that we're providing now, though?
Well,
from family case?
what I just explained, I mean.
No, I mean, I don't think it'd be as extensive of what we're doing today, though, correct?
Right.
Okay, so they will not receive the same level. So there will be a loss of service.
Well, no, like I said, the loss of services should be picked up by their primary care doctor, which is.
But the primary care doctor doesn't go in depth.
But our WIC staff will go in depth about nutrition and about, do you have a doctor, and those questions that are typically asked of the moms. Immunizations, those kinds of things.
Okay, Ms. Trainier, and let's try to bring our questions. So we got a number of people that want to come down and speak. Well, that's why I'm just saying, Ms. Trainier, you got Trainier?
I just wanted to say thank you, Sue, for all the work that you've done to bring us through this horrific period of time. I also want to say thank you to the employees. I suspect that your budget this year, with only budgeting for 97% of the staff, you're still going to probably do over 100% worth of work. And I suspect also that those employees and your budgets have also, in the past years, been less of a percentage, meaning that by now most of your employees are probably doing more than what they used to do in terms of a caseload.
Yeah, we have amazing employees throughout the whole agency, whether it's case management or behavioral health, environmental health, health center. We have amazing employees, and we wouldn't nearly be able to do most of what we do without their dedication and their devotion to their clients and to the mission at the health department. And I know probably 95% of them by name, and I appreciate what they do, and they do make a difference to the community in Will County.
And if I recall, in the years either when I first got, I think when I first got on the board, the employees did forego some raises that were coming to them through their contract. So they have given up monies in the past, as well as taken on additional work. So again, I just want to say I notice, I recognize, and I appreciate everything you and the staff is doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Sue, for all that explanation. Certainly appreciate it. So, well, you're going to be just, people that are going to make comments, we're just going to have them come up and make comments. Oh, yeah, I'm bringing them up right now. Starting off, okay, we got a number of citizens that want to be heard. Well, I'm going to call two at a time, so one come down and get to the podium, and then the next one to be ready. Our first two is Nikki Serben and Susanna Abera, if I'm correct.
According to our rules, our 2-minute.
Yeah,
We have so many speakers.
yes, we do, and yeah. So try to keep your comments. We want to hear, but we about 2 minutes. Okay.
Yes, sir, I'll be as brief as I can.
Pardon me?
I'll be as brief as I can.
Well, okay.
My name is Nikki Servant. I am a Mokina resident. I know many of you are concerned about layoffs and things like that. That's not why I'm here. I'm here to fight for those suffering from severe mental conditions that go untreated if this board turns a blind eye. In 2009, I suffered from postpartum depression, and I had to rely on state programs because my husband was a laid-off ironworker. Our insurance had lapsed, and I had nothing. And the emotional toll and the amount of distress, unless you've experienced it, you couldn't possibly understand. And the idea of women in our county running into that problem now is gut-wrenching. Now, you know, we want you guys to understand that the county board behavioral health funding is so important because people not only need mental health care, but they also need medications. We are talking about lots of medications. Now, many of you don't realize, but when you come off a lot of antidepressants, antipsychotics, your risk of suicide jumps dramatically unless you come off those medications incrementally. Now, if the medicine's going to run out at the end of the month and they have no idea that they're supposed to be stepping off slowly, everything exponentially increases. So the risk of suicide, the risk of homicide, the risk of abuse, and it's not just some things, it's pretty extensive things. We're talking about people that make up a large portion of our population. We're talking about 500,000 people that fall under the category of severe mental illness, or 4% of our population. Severe mental illness is commonly defined by its duration and disability. It includes schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, and major depression. Not only that, but it also includes any kind of disorders that include delusions, hallucinations, or other disorders. So that's 4% of our population. We have 677,000 people in the county. And based on statistics, that would boil down to roughly 100,000 people struggling with some form of mental health, and about 10,000 people in Will County struggling with significant mental health issues. So I appreciate where you guys are coming from. I understand the concerns about the money, but from a financial standpoint, lack of mental health resources and medication clearly leads to a higher taxpayer cost in the end. Unemployment means no tax money coming in for the state, but unemployment also raises the risk of homelessness and or desperate behavior. Homelessness lowers property values. Desperate and unstable behavior can lead to criminal activity that can lead to incarceration, which is also something we'll have to pay for. Lack of proper mental health care will drive people to self-medicate, and opiates are the self-medication of choice. Now, opiates very quickly and very easily lead into heroin abuse, which also is a major public issue. Since we're talking about risky behaviors, risky sexual behaviors. Higher likelihoods of spreading sexually transmitted diseases, unintended pregnancies, children in foster care, and even abortions. These people are at significant risk. 90% of suicides are severe mental illness related. 10% of homicides are untreated mental illness. 50% of mass killings are untreated mental illness. These are not nothing. These are significant issues. And it's not just the risk to adults, it's the risk to the children of these people with significant mental health issues. Yes, sir. The children are most prone to violence, neglect, and even sexual abuse. So this is not a nothing. This is something that is so important. So I count on you, members of the board, to exercise compassion and foresight, and please use the money to help fund Will County Human Health Services for as long as possible. And at the end of the day, spending tax money on mental health services for our neighbors in need is significantly more important than a shiny new building. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Jody Martin. Come down. You go ahead.
Good
Susanna.
afternoon. I'm Susanna Ibarra. I'm a resident of Joliet. Members of the public, please raise your hand if you are here to support family health funding. Thank you for taking your time out of your day to show us that you care. These clients receiving the services that you're about to vote on probably aren't here. These people are struggling to get through every day, struggling to keep their lives together, their families together, struggling to keep every day as normal as they possibly can. And hopefully you're not about to deal them a death blow. A close friend of mine has a teenage daughter who has a long-term mental illness. So if you don't think that the public sector affects you, let me tell you how this affects the private sector. She has very good insurance, and she has every possible means to provide her daughter with mental services. She has a psychiatrist who has recently moved out of state, and she decided to look for a psychiatrist in the area for her daughter to pick up the additional services that her daughter needs. And she called 37 psychiatrists in the area. Not one of those 37 psychiatrists that she called were seeing new patients, and that is someone who does have the means to pay for services and does have very good insurance. So this is actually flooding the private sector as well. And keep in mind that the decisions you are making are for the most vulnerable of residents, the least advantaged and the poorest of our county. And please show them that you care. Please support Family Health Services. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up is Curtis Anderson. Curtis Anderson, please.
Hi, thank you for your time. I'm going to keep it short. My name is Jody Ann Martin. I am a resident of Bolingbrook. 20 years ago, 20 years ago, my stepbrother Jonathan shot himself in my I'm so sorry. 20 years ago, my stepbrother shot himself in my stepfather's basement. He would have been 41. He didn't have the benefit of mental health programs that we have today. I simply feel that not approving the funding on any of these programs would be devastating and irresponsible. That is all I have to say, but thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Next up is Mayor Mark Kaufman. Is that correct, Mark? Okay, come on down. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, sir. My name is Curtis Anderson. I'm a veteran of 8 years in the United States Navy. I served 6 months, thank you. I served 6 months, boots on the ground at Camp Cropper, which is in Victory Base Complex, Baghdad, Iraq. My brothers and sisters in arms are dying every day, 22 a day. That's just the veterans. When you actually add in the active service members, it's closer to 30 a day. If I go to the VA right now and ask for mental health services, I'm put on a waiting list of 2 to 4 months. Someone who needs mental health services can't wait 2 to 4 months. I'm a lucky person to not have had to see combat when I was in the war zone. I was very lucky for that. I consider myself lucky for that. Every single person who sees any combat has effects, psychological effects, and the services provided by the VA are doing as much as they can, but it's not enough. The stopgaps, the things are made up by states, counties. Veterans are normally not, veterans with mental health issues are also normally not well employed, so they really can't afford a lot of stuff on their own. Please stand with my brothers and sisters in arms. Please approve this funding.
Thank you very much. Next, Marvin Lindsay. Go ahead, sir. Mark.
Thank you. My name is Mark Kaufman. I'm a professor of English at Joliet Junior College, and there's personal accounts I can kind of give that might echo in terms of my family being touched by issues of mental health, but I guess the perspective I can give that might be more distinct from my position is that I'm also the advisor of Phi Theta Kappa at JJC, and they did a college project this year to raise the conversation on mental health issues and suicide awareness on campus, actually. And that I learned from these students that 1 out of every 4 college students has a diagnosable mental illness. So I was surprised to learn that. And I guess one thing I can say is, personally, besides ADD, which I have had diagnosed, I don't have any mental illnesses or problems, but I wanted to bring up that I was going through counseling for a divorce that I went through, and I remember that when my ex-wife when she finally moved out, just the emptiness. There aren't any kids or there weren't in the marriage, but the raw emotion I felt when I was in my home and it was alone after so many years. I had to call my therapist. I had to call my counselor, and this is me, and these are college students that have a lot of advantages many people do not have. I guess is my point, that I feel so much more for people confronting much worse problems than I, that don't have that have mental illnesses, and how much they need our help. And so I hope that we will give the funding that we need. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark, for your comments. Next up is Tanya Arias. Tanya? Go ahead, Marvin.
Okay. My name is Marvin Lindsay, and I am the CEO of Community Behavior Healthcare Association. We're a trade association of mental health and substance abuse, statewide trade association. So our members provide basically the services that Will County Health Department provides. I'd just like to first thank you for recognizing May as Children's Mental Health Awareness Month. I find it ironic that you did that today, and we're talking about this. And I also congratulate you on this discussion. I work for a statewide association, so I travel the state. And believe me, these discussions are not happening everywhere around the state. And so I applaud you for even having different opinions, but at least putting it on the table and discussing it. I think Will County Health Department, from my knowledge and experience of working with them, have been tremendous in being fiscally responsible. And I say that because even back when the state first had a budget problem, they made a move to eliminate some services, substance abuse services, at a time when, and you're having a substance abuse crisis, a heroin crisis in here, but they could not continue to provide those services. And so they continue to provide these mental health services really under the hope, and that's all it is, hope that the state will continue to pay. And by the grace of God, the county board has stepped in and loaned them some money. So one of the gentlemen talked about consequences. And by us being a statewide association, this is some of the things that we're seeing right now. 86% of community providers have been forced to reduce their psychiatric services. The wait time to see a psychiatrist can be as long as 3 to 6 months. Nearly 24% of Illinois hospital emergency department visits in the past year have been related to behavioral health care needs, and that trend is continuing to grow. There have been service cuts and program shutdowns. One of the saddest stories I heard recently was a lady here in Will County that called a substance abuse place and said, you can take my son off the waiting list now. And it's like, why? Because he OD'd last night. And those are real stories. I also heard today that you gave the sheriff's department some extra money. And I think that will continue to happen if you allow these services, or if these services, mental health services, are cut. I've spoken with the Illinois Sheriff's Association Executive Director, and their number 1 and 2 issues currently is mental health and substance abuse, because they're using their sheriffs to really do social work and make crisis calls, and they cannot continue to do that. So I thank you for this time and this opportunity, and I support and hope that you will pass this motion to fund Will County Health Department.
Thank you, Marvin. Next up is Danielle O'Connell. Danielle O'Connell.
Hi, my name is Tanya Arias. I am a resident of Joliet, and I hope that you will hear in all the testimonies that have happened today, and you come together and fund the health department. As you have seen, the health department does offer a lot of services that are needed, and this isn't not a party issue. This is an everyone issue, a human issue, that we need to provide that everyone has adequate health care, that they have adequate services that they can go to. And if any of these services are eliminated, then what are we going to do with everyone who's homeless, who is on the streets because they don't have medication, which will result, again, as people had said before, result in more violence, result in more things that we were going to have to come back again and start more funding. So I just ask that you take your time and personally think, if someone in your family had any issue and needed the health department, would you turn your back on them? And I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Next is Victoria Whitehead, I think. Go ahead, Danielle.
Okay, good afternoon. I actually had no intent to speak today when I came to this meeting, and the more I thought about it, I felt hypocritical. I have worked in the mental health field for 20 years with Trinity Services, and I felt that if I didn't speak up for those people that are potentially losing their voice in our community, that I wouldn't be able to look at myself in the mirror tomorrow. I will be brief. I'm here, I am one person and I am one voice, but I think I'm representing a group of people in our community that are not only stigmatized, but significantly marginalized for a number of different reasons. The stigma around mental health issues, although it's somewhat improving, I think it is something that is very real, although people really don't want to acknowledge that it's there. The financial toll of mental illness, oftentimes people have difficulty maintaining gainful employment, which can limit access to services. If people don't have the means to purchase medications or to consistently see a mental health provider, it has a devastating impact. I think what I just want to speak to briefly is ultimately, it's a state financial issue. This is not people not caring about large portions of our society, which I understand. I think what's important to realize is the care of these people will just be displaced from the Will County Health Department to other entities in our society. As a representative of Trinity Services, we would be one of the agencies in the community in the position to provide care to some of these individuals. We are also funded by the same source that the Will County Health Department is funded, meaning we haven't been paid either. So we are, we're maxed out with our staff, we're doing everything we can, but we can only do so much. People will be diverted to hospital emergency rooms, which, they can only do so much. And quite honestly, their job, and this is the job for a psychiatric hospitalization, is to stabilize and discharge. Part of the discharge plan for anyone being sent home from a psychiatric hospitalization, you have to have an appointment with a psychiatrist. The two local hospitals, Silver Cross and St. Joe's, those psychiatry visits were set up with the Will County Health Department. So where are those people going to go?
Bring your comments to
Okay,
close on.
thank you. I apologize.
No, that's all right. We can bring them to a close.
I just think as a community, we have a responsibility to serve and support everyone in our community. And I think this is an invisible population that, if we could just acknowledge their needs, it would be somewhat refreshing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up is Kenneth Comey. I got the Kenneth part right.
Good afternoon. My name is Victoria Whitehead, and I'm employed by the Will County Health Department. Just this past Sunday, I was talking to a young lady that shared with me that she was a part of behavioral health at our health department, and that she had received a letter that she would no longer be able to receive her medication. And she said to me, "I need my medication just to get up and start my day." This is how much she depends on behavioral health. Yesterday, I work in the WIC division, which is still a part of part of Family Health Services. A young lady was sitting at my desk, and I was qualifying her and doing the paperwork to see if she qualified for WIC. Before I could finish, she began to cry because she was upset and thought that she was not going to qualify for WIC. Well, when I finished qualifying her paperwork, she was working 2 jobs and her income fell under $14,000, which is in a poverty level. In order for her to qualify, she couldn't be over $29,000 for a family of 2, and she's carrying a baby. And so I shared with her that God knows her heart, and God knows that she is trying to take care of herself. But I pray that you all will vote in favor of the funding to go forth so we can give our community and the clients in our community the services that they need. Thank you.
Thank you, Victoria. Thank you very much. Next up is Doug Jones. Mr. Jones.
Hi, my name is Kenneth Economy. I'm a resident of Joliet. I do go to Will County Mental Health, the adult division. You close that down. Where do I get my meds? Who do I see? I started looking around just in case you do close it down to find another psychiatrist, a psychologist. Nobody in Joliet is taking new clients. They're not even taking people that have the Obamacare. They stopped. Where do I go? Do you have any answers where to go? Do you have any help for me? I mean, I'm one of the ones that is a resident of Joliet and a person that does go to Will County Health Medical to get my meds, to make, day by day. And now you close this down, I'll have nowhere to go. Next choice, God forbid it doesn't happen, I'll go to Will County Jail and see a psychiatrist there. That's not going to help me. That's not going to help me at all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Kenneth.
I'd like to thank the executive and the board for this time. My name is Doug Jones. I'm Regional Director for Behavioral Health for President's Health, and my region includes President's Health, President St. Joe's Medical Center here in Joliet. This is my first exposure to the board, so I'd like to say I've been impressed with the effort of working through, obviously, a difficult situation for everybody involved. And everybody's spoken a great deal about the effects of mental health, so I'll say specific quickly to President St. Joe's Medical Center. We admit patients into our facility at their most acute and vulnerable times for somebody to be hospitalized, and they may stay there 5 to 7 days. After that, we have to have a concrete supportive discharge plan to keep them from getting back to that crisis again. And we depend on Will County Health Department for those follow-ups. We refer somewhere between 30 and 50 patients a month to Will County Health Department. Without them, we're going to be extremely challenged to provide services. I know there was this talk at the previous meeting about the Affordable Care Act and Medicaid managed care, and there should be providers. However, the independent providers most often have chosen not to go on these panels. So even though there is coverage, there's not services. Sometimes the closest psychiatrist from here is in Chicago. That's on one of the managed care panels. And that's not practical for me, let alone some of the people we're trying to service who don't even have transportation. So with that, I'd just like to say, we are very dependent, on Will County Health Department. So thank you.
Thank you, Doug. I appreciate you coming by. Mr. Frizzalone.
Yep. So we have a motion and a second?
It's been motioned and second. Yes, you're on the list, but you want to talk about the courthouse.
No, the same issue.
Oh, I didn't see.
She was on for the courthouse.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. It's got written on here. You wanted to talk about the courthouse, but come on down. You're welcome. I'm sorry.
My name is Joyce Craig, and I have spoken to before.
I always appreciate the high level of importance and professionalism of political figures. I have to say that I disagree with this conversation. I have made use of the Will County Health Department. Their level of professionalism and services are not what they should be. That is, I have gone for upper respiratory infection. I have felt that they have been negligent. Now, this is my opinion as part of the public. There are those persons that are employees of the Will County Health Department that obviously will disagree with me. But as someone that has made use of the Will County Health Department, I do not disagree that there should be layoffs. I feel there should be. And that is because you have been negligent. And this is my personal opinion, but your level of professionalism is not where it should be. And this is just my opinion.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments.
Can we call a question?
Everybody understand the motion? Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Mayor?
Pass.
Brooks?
After all this discussion, Madam Clerk, my answer is yes.
Thank you. Howard?
Yes.
Ogalla?
Yes.
Moran?
Yes.
Rice?
Yes.
Harris?
Yes.
Trainier?
Yes.
Benefield?
Yes.
Fritz?
Yes.
Freitag?
Yes.
Gould?
Yes.
Balich?
I'm a yes, but I want to make it very clear that I'll be a no after this vote when it comes up again.
Okay.
I think we need to close this whole thing out, like I said before.
Thank you.
Transition out.
Frizzalone?
Yes.
Winfrey?
Yes.
Parker?
Yes.
Staley Ferry?
Yes.
Wilhelmie?
Yes.
Hart? Tumanello?
Yes.
Weigel?
Yes.
Collins?
Yes.
Ferry?
Yes.
And Mustis.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Executive.
Mr. Mayor? Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, I have a comment before I change my vote here. I really do appreciate all the speakers that came out here today. This was a wonderful opportunity to hear from the constituents, from the employees, and from the both on the positive and negative side of our health services. I think all of you should go to Springfield. I really do. You all should go to Springfield. You know, for decades, both parties in Springfield would rather play politics over setting good policy. They give in to special interest groups like the state employee unions, who help them get elected. You, Mr. Executive, cast many a vote during your tenure in Springfield the very same way. You and your colleagues have made promises that could not be kept without driving our state to near bankruptcy. The citizens of this country, this state, and especially in Will County, are tired of Illinois state politics. Mr. Executive, your instincts to go that way for these same political tactics are still being seen. You are not about coming to us for a solution during this process. You were about winning back favors from the public union after the strike. If you were here for good policy, you would have come to this leadership on this board and attempted to facilitate a solution. Instead, you chose to attend press conferences so you would get media attention and set up conflict. If you were for good policy, you would have attended our committee meetings where this problem was discussed. Instead, you play this out in the media, calling for special meetings, which cost this county money when the sheriff has to deliver packages to everybody on the board. If you were for good policy, you would be speaking out against the representatives in Springfield on both the Republican and Democratic sides that are making it impossible to keep the promises that they have made. Over your tenure, you've made policies and actions taken that we have agreed on and those that we've disagreed. This situation has magnified the problem and fosters a culture of politics under your watch as executive. I have doctors from the health department calling me and leaving me messages on my phone, threatening me that if I don't call them back, they will have their patients call me and make me explain why we are closing the mental health center. We never, ever voted to stop services. That was the Will County Board of Health. I've spent over 30 years in the field of education and counseling. I helped in the draft and passage of the Professional Counselor Licensure Bill, and I was appointed by Governor Edgar to the Regulatory Board and chaired that board for the first 6 years of its existence. Now retired, I hold the #2 license in the state. This law was passed to ensure that professionals who serve our citizens with mental health needs are qualified, trained, and held to a standard that would prevent what happened over the last week. What happened, you may ask, is this doctor I referred to not only threatened me, he used his health department phone during work hours to make his call. More appalling, he had his patients contact me. That's where I got upset and felt that I needed to make this statement. I was contacted by folks with anxiety disorders, depression, and bipolar disorders. In my conversation with one of these patients, I told her that I was sorry that she was asked to do this and that I did not think this appropriate. She replied that she felt the same way. She felt the same way, but was asked to call the governor, myself, and Representative Freitag. She needed a professional that should have supported her, helped her feel that life would be okay. Instead, she was made to feel hopeless and desperate. I can't imagine that you would feel that this was the right thing to do, Larry. However, I'm holding you and all of us responsible here for the political culture that has been created with the relationships that we've created now with the unions and the conflict that we have going on. Therefore, I'm calling for an investigation of the Will County Health Department. I want to see that we make sure that professionals serving our citizens are qualified, licensed, and held to ethical standards without question. I want the Health Board to develop policies that mandate these standards. That those employees that are not appropriately credentialed, and I've been talked to by counselors that work for the health department that have told me their credentials and that the folks above them aren't. That those folks are made to do so in a reasonable time, and if they can't, they need to be let go. Even so, even if they are part of the union. I want any counselor that's used as their authority to manipulate their patients to be brought up on ethical misconduct charges to the appropriate state agency. In fact, I've had those counselors, as we talked about. And why those managers should not be in those positions, it's just too many things that we'd have to go into, so I'm going to hold off on that. But the political culture that we've established here in Will County is not sustainable. We need to have leadership that is willing to work together, not when it looks good, but at all the time. I feel that this is in the best interest of the citizens here in Will County. Therefore, I vote yes for providing the short-term loan necessary to help our most fragile citizens to get the support they deserve. We may never get the state money required to sustain some of our grant-based programs. We must ensure that there's a good, solid plan and transition to other service providers, and to remember that this was not caused by the health board. It was not caused by the county board or you, Mr. Executive, but by the state of Illinois not keeping their promises.
Madam Clerk.
It's 23.
23?
Yes.
Positive?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Oh, sorry, Jim.
We'll just do the appointment.
John, Jim?
Okay, our next executive committee meeting will be is scheduled for June 2nd at 10 a.m. Next, we have the appointments of the county executive. I'm going to move forward, but I do think that one of the appointments, one of our board members would like to vote on it separately. Ms. Freitag, I mean, I don't know if you want to, is that appointment in this? Well, you tell me which one you want it separated, voted on separately. Okay.
You want a roll call vote on
Yeah.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes, can we have a roll call vote on Mr. Thompson?
Okay.
Okay, so I move to approve all the appointments with the exclusion of Mr. Thompson
Okay.
for Fire Protection District.
Moved by Mr. Mustis, second by Mr. Mayor. All in favor signify, no, we need a motion. Any questions? Ms. Trainier?
Yes, Mr. Executive, what seems to be the issue with Mr. Thompson? He was your appointee last time, he's your appointee this time.
Let's wait till we get to that one,
Jackie.
okay?
Let's get
Then you
to
can, we'll come back to your question. Any other questions? Previous roll by Ms. Winfrey, second by Mr. Moran. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion carried.
And now we'll make a motion for approval on Mr. Thompson.
Don, you got it. Don want to be abstain? Okay. Mr. Mooses makes a motion to approve Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Second by Mr. Brooks. Ms. Trainier.
This vote was rejected last time. Why do you keep on letting it come back?
Sir, you reappointed him, I think, 2 months ago, we tabled it. What seems to be the issue?
There seems to be an issue, and the reason Mr. Thompson is back on the agenda is, and I'll go to Mr. Moran in a minute, that a number of county board members asked me why, there was no debate when Ms. Freitag made a motion that not to
Made a plea not to approve.
make or didn't ask them not to approve it, and there was allocations of him not being at meetings and not attending meetings, and Mr. Moran came to me and he said he wanted to find out, and so Don, you did go and talk to all the people involved.
I reached out.
I think we still have enough numbers if we don't say no.
I reached out to Mr. Thompson. I also reached out to the president of the Fire Protection District. I talked to the chief. I talked to another board member. What happened at the last meeting was there was a statement that was given at the 11th hour that he had a high absenteeism rate. Mr. Thompson's a contractor to a person. Everyone agreed that he has a lot of valid input into what goes on at the Fire Protection Board, and they value his input. The chief said he'll work with whoever, but the president and the other board members agreed that I spoke to, agreed that they value his input. What happened when he missed the time, he's a contractor, he was working out of town, and then he had a health issue that's been resolved. Also, the board has adopted rules that allow electronic participation if he's not present. Like I said, everybody told me that they appreciate and agree that this guy is a very valuable asset to the board. So.
Thank you. So that's this discussion. Mr. Mustis?
Yeah, on electronic participation, I do believe that's pretty limited by statute. And are you over there, Mary? Maybe Mary left.
What's that? What's that?
So I mean, when Don mentions that they passed a resolution to allow electronic participation, I thought that your ability to participate in meetings electronically is pretty limited.
It is limited, but not knowing what provisions they have given him to participate. I don't know that we're in a position to do an analysis there are very specific reasons that allow you to participate electronically.
I also think, this is a broader view of electronic participation, not necessarily comment on this person, but, I'm just going to say electronic participation, I think, is something that is there for occasions, not as a rule, for somebody at least to come in and listen. We have people that participate electronically, but they usually just listen to what's going on in the meeting. That there's a limit to their participation. So I just don't want to have anyone go forward thinking that because you have the ability to call in, that's a real commitment or participation. I don't think it is. So
Mr. Moran?
Mr. Executive, in attention to portray that this particular individual was not going to participate in person at board meetings, but they have evidently passed some rules on their board that allow electronic participation if any of the board members happen to not be able to make it present to the meeting. From what I understand, aside from the time period that he was traveling for work and the medical issue that he had, his participation level in the board has been quite good.
Ms. Freitag?
Don, I appreciate you talking to the board and the people and giving us some more research. I know Don Gould as well. My reasons for this is my research that I had done before when it was brought to us before, and some of the board members and people that are on the board that I've known for a very long time and had issues with him not coming to the meetings. I believe he missed, and again, this was 13 meetings in 2 years. I don't know, I don't have any information from the last vote until present. I don't have any information as to regards to that. So I was just asking to not go forward on this appointment based on, again, my research. I do appreciate that. I would like to put this on the record. Again, I'm not trying to make this an issue. I'm not trying to make this a political issue. This was just, I did my research and I'm, my vote is doing what I felt was right. Unfortunately, I know that there has been some tensions with the whole health department and things going on, and I think now it's even poured into this issue. I'd like to put on the record that fellow county board member, Jackie Trainier, was so kind to remind me that my attendance has been lacking on the Heritage Corridor Board. She said that here during the county board meeting, and that if I oppose Mr. Walsh's appointment, that I need to watch out.
Sure you did. Sure you did.
I'm not sure what that means, but I'd like to take this opportunity to explain myself. Yes, my attendance has been lacking in the last year. And unfortunately, I didn't realize the time and the locations of that meeting. The times are about 10 o'clock, and the locations can be so far as LaSalle and Peru. Unfortunately, balancing this position as well as being an attorney, usually court time and these committee meetings are usually around that time. I have done my best to attend those meetings, but I have also donated my legal services free of charge for this organization. And that's outside, and voluntarily I did that. I never, ever would ask somebody or ask you guys to vote no on something that I would be doing the same. I believe I have participated and done my best ability on that board, but I take quite offense to that comment. At this point, I do appreciate your research. I know Don has, and vote how you want. This isn't that big of a deal. But these conversations is what bother me.
Let me say this, Reagan, that the instance of poor participation occurred back in the year 2012 and 2013 for Mr. Thompson, when Don, as Don said, that he was going through some health issues that basically he probably maybe only made half of the monthly meetings. But since then, and we're in 2016, I mean, all of last year, I think he had very minor, 1 or 2 absence for that. So,
Let's call the question on
At this point, I want everyone to know, my vote will still be a no.
Okay.
But the reason for that no is
That's-
not because of
that's
his
fine.
attendance, because there has been some time, and I didn't know he was sick. The
Yep.
people that I spoke to wanted somebody else forward,
Mhm.
and so my vote is only no, because I know another name has been put forward to you, Larry,
Mhm.
and so that's the only reason. It's
Mhm.
not due to attendance, it's due to my own research, and again, I appreciate both your research and just vote how.
and the other name that you know that's been put before me, I have nothing against that gentleman. He is a firefighter,
Yeah.
but I don't want to eliminate somebody off, remove somebody off the board, a fire board that, as Don found out, that he's well received and very, very active in it. So.
Let's call the question. Call the question.
Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Sure. Mayor?
No.
Pardon me?
No.
No.
Thank you. Brooks?
Yes.
Howard? Yes. Agala? Yes. Moran?
I'm a vote yes.
Rice? Yes. Harris?
Yes.
Trainier? Yes. Benefield?
No.
Fritz? Yes. Freitag? No. Gould?
Yes.
Balich?
No.
Quisalone?
No.
Winfrey?
Yes. They got enough votes.
Parker? Yes. Staley Ferry? Yes. Tumanello?
Yes.
Weigel?
Yes.
Collins? Yes. Ferry?
Yes.
And Eustace?
No.
Thank you.
Herb, have no comments. Wish everybody a nice day, Herb.
15 affirmative, 6 negative.
15 affirmative, 6 negative, the appointment had passed. 16, did you say? Oh, 16. 16 to 6? Okay. Appointment has been approved. Ms. Prenier.
Mr. Executive, I do want to share for the record that I did not threaten Ms. Freitag. I simply stated that this gentleman missed some meetings due to some health problems and work problems, and that I know that for a fact that she's had some similar situations with her appointment on the Convention and Tourism Board. And I suggested that sometimes people have problems. And she said to me, yes, I was having problems attending the meetings, and that I, in fact, sent an email to the county executive and to the county board chief of staff that she wanted to wish to resign from that board 6 months ago. And I said, well, you know, it's helpful to have empathy for understanding that somebody else could be in the same situation as you. And then she said to me, I don't take very well to threats. I didn't threaten her. Not at any point did I threaten her. I came to her one-on-one to tell her what I felt about this position, that this fella had a rough time, just like apparently she had had with the commitment that she made, and he was doing fine now, and that she should have some empathy for him. That was all. There was no threat implied, intended, in any way.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Mr. Howard, you got a question?
Yeah, I just got a comment real quick. You know, today there was a lot of passion in the room. I think we were basically really a lot of energy in this room today. And you know what, I mean, there's a lot of good things in life out there. I mean, this whole thing with the health department, I mean, you look at the little things in life now. All right, wait, let me finish though. So anyway, but let's, you know, we just got to come back together at the end of the day. This isn't Washington, this is not Springfield, this is Will County Board, and I think it's a good thing. And this morning when I walked out of the house, my son had mowed the grass yesterday. He didn't weed eat, but again, that was the little things that I'm learning to appreciate in life. So thank you very much.
So, announcements by the caucus chair, Mr. Maher. Our
Thank
mayor.
you, Mr. Executive, and I think we should pull us all back together here. And we are all wearing, a lot of us are wearing purple, which is showing a lot of unity here for the Relay for Life that's coming up on June 4th. So I recommend that all of us can get there and let's go walk and get rid of cancer.
Thank you. The Democratic Caucus Chair, Pastor Brooks.
Thank you, Mr. Executive. Very spirited conversation today, and in my line of work, I recognize spirit, and I think we had that on today. Mr. Executive, on May the 30th is Memorial Day. Our County Board member Mark Ferry is displaying a flag that was presented to him by his late father, veteran, 14 years ago, to remind us what Memorial Day is all about. You all have a beautiful day that's left. Thank you so much. God bless you all.
Thank you. Mr. County Board Speaker, Mr. Mustis.
I just want to thank County Board staff for all their hard work for the month. I thank the executive staff for all their hard work, and of course, always my favorite County Board members. You really work hard, even when we disagree. And yeah, I think at the end of the day, we all kind of still love each other, you know. Have a great day. Thank you.
Before we leave, the state's attorney and myself, that the fact that I had called a special meeting, we will call that meeting to order, just to make sure that it was conducted, and that there will be a statement made, and then we will adjourn. So, Mr. Moran, if everybody could stay. Mr. Moran?
I just have a very brief comment. This is Armed Forces Week. Saturday is Armed Forces Day. That day is dedicated to the recognition of those serving in active duty in all of our armed forces. And I'd like to take a moment to thank those in our service and to remember anyone who served in the past. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. With that, this meeting of the Will County Board will stand as adjourned. So I'd like to call to order the special meeting of the Will County Board for May 19, 2016. We'll stand and have the pledge. Mr. Gould, if you lead to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, can you take the roll?
Sure. Mayor? Brooks?
Here.
Howard?
Here.
Ogala?
Here.
Moran?
Here.
Rice?
Here.
Harris?
Here.
Trenier?
Here.
Benefield?
Here.
Fritz?
Present.
Freitag?
Here.
Gould?
Here.
Balich?
Here.
Frizzlone? Winfrey?
Here.
Parker?
Here.
Staley Ferry?
Here.
Tuminello? Weigel? Collins? Ferry?
Here.
And Mustis.
Yeah. 19 present.
19 present. We have a quorum. Motion to place on file certificate of publication. Moved by Mr. Moran, second by Mr. Howard. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary, motion carried. This meeting was called for the purpose of Resolution 16-151 to provide $426,873 of financial assistance in the form of a loan to maintain the adult services, crisis response, and juvenile justice programs in the Behavioral Health Division of the Will County Health Department. The temporary assistance loan will allow the Will County Health Department to maintain services in these critical program areas and will retain 18 positions through November 30th of 2016. That issue, that was what we were going to debate, but we had a great debate here coming from the agenda of the county board and working it out that way. The need of this resolution is not needed, and so at that time, Mr. Moran, question? No. Okay. Mr. Moran moves to adjourn, and Mr. Tumanello seconds that. All in favor, aye? Aye. Thank you very much. Good meeting.